dun 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 Hello everyone, CodeOnBite here, and welcome to my first ever Minecraft tutorial. Are you guys ready to build the fastest, biggest, and baddest, and most awesome, and goodest, Wither Skeleton Experience farm ever? Are you ready? Well, I am, because this farm that I designed like a year ago, but procrastinated on making a tutorial for, sorry about that, has over 2,304 spawnable blocks, more than any other Wither Skeleton farm design out there. JL2579's Witherripper only has 720 spawnable blocks. This one has over 3 times that many at 2,304. 2,304 blocks of Wither Skeleton and Pigman and Blaze spawning awesomeness. Ladies and gentlemen, buckle your seatbelts, because we are about to get started on our adventure. Now, this tutorial is 3 hours long, over 3 hours long, and if you take one look at this farm, I think you can see why. Don't worry, it may look complicated now, but with you guys, I will take you one step at a time through the process that you need to go through to build this thing, including where you need to build it, what kind of nether fortress you need to be looking for, and all that kind of thing. And then I'll take you through all this complicated redstone here, one step at a time. I'll literally take you block by block, through the construction of this farm, starting with the construction of these spawning pads, then we'll go to this thing that pushes them to the center, and then finally the complicated redstone there. Do not worry, do not feel intimidated, never fear, CodeOnBite is here! So, you don't have to fret or worry about where things go, because I've already done all of that for you. I've already done all the bug testing, all the I fixed all the problems with mobs taking fall damage in the centralizer, so you don't have to. So just sit back, relax. Oh, but make sure you do have like a gajillion sticky pistons and building blocks and glass and all kinds of stuff, and redstone, because you're gonna need it. Alright, enough chit-chat. Let's build this thing. Alright guys, so I went ahead and put the game on peaceful, since this is a tutorial, and I don't think you want to listen to ghasts wailing and moaning while I'm trying to explain the theory of how this thing works. So I mentioned earlier that Wither Skeletons can only spawn in nether fortresses. So let's elaborate on that and talk about what the game considers to be inside a nether fortress. When the game generates a nether fortress, it generates an invisible box around each part of the nether fortress. When the game tries to spawn a mob inside one of those invisible boxes, it uses a different list of spawnable mobs than when it tries to spawn a mob elsewhere. So for example, if the game tries to spawn a mob on this walkway here, well, this walkway is inside the invisible box that it generates around each of these bridges. And so the game, instead of saying, okay, I'm going to randomly choose either a ghast, a zombie pigman, or a magma cube, it instead tries to spawn either a wither skeleton, a regular skeleton, a zombie pigman, a blaze, or a magma cube. Notice that ghasts cannot spawn on one of the blocks inside one of those boxes, and blazes and skeletons can spawn. This is actually the same way that witch huts work. When the game generates a witch hut, then it generates an invisible box around the hut, and whenever it tries to spawn a mob inside that box, it uses a different mobs list, which includes only witches. So only witches will spawn inside that box. It's a little bit different there because it also checks to make sure you're in a swamp biome. So if you're in, say, an ocean biome, then it will use the regular mob list even if you're inside that box. It is important to note that these invisible boxes are permanent. They remain even if you tear down the Nether fortress. The game doesn't care if you tear down the Nether fortress and build something else there. It still thinks that there's a Nether fortress there and will try to spawn Nether fortress mobs within the places where the Nether fortress once was. That invisible box is only created when the world is first generated. The bounding box that gets generated around the part of the Nether fortress varies between different Nether fortress parts. Cabo PC made a very nice video where he shows exactly what the boundaries are for different types of Nether fortress parts. I will leave a link to that video in the description. But for most parts, the bounding box walls are going to correspond to the physical walls of the fortress that get generated. For example, out here on this bridge, the walls of the bounding box are marked by these blocks here. So you'll get spawns, here, but you won't get them out here or out here, respectively. You'll get fortress spawns, that is. And then the ceiling goes a few blocks above the walkway, and the floor goes a few blocks below. However, for some parts of the Nether fortress, the game will generate a spawning region around them that is significantly larger than the actual physical Nether fortress part. For example, at a four-way intersection like this, when you have an open four-way intersection like this, you get a 19 by 19 square centered on the middle of the intersection. And it goes a few blocks above and a few blocks below the walkway, like most parts of the Nether fortress do. Be careful not to confuse these types of four-way intersections that have the 19 by 19 spawning square around them with this type of intersection. Pretend that this lava room isn't here. Note that these two walkways intersect here, but this intersection has a little open roof generated over it, but crucially, it has this thing in the corner. This little bit in the corner here. This is actually the boundary of the spawning region here. So on this intersection, you don't get a 19 by 19 square. And again, pretend this lava room thing isn't here. That it's just a thing like this. But yeah, these types of intersections do not give you that spawning region. These types of open intersections like this, where it's just an open four-way intersection, nothing in the corner like that, these do. So you're going to want to go for these types when choosing where to build your wither skeleton farm. And I'll show you some more details later. So to find a suitable spawning region to build your farm in, you're going to want to find an area where you have a couple of these, at least two of these four-way intersections adjacent to each other. And don't worry, it is very common for these four-way intersections to be generated adjacent to each other. So notice that these two four-way intersections, they're both generated on the same bridge. I can put a block in the center of this one, in the center of this one, and I can make one line of blocks that connects them with no kinks in it or anything. You want that. Seriously, don't settle for a fortress that does not have at least two adjacent intersections like that. If you build your farm at only one of these intersections, you will be disappointed. It will not have very good output. Two of them will give you a very nice output. Sometimes you can even find three, but three is a bit overkill. Two of these intersections will give you a lot of spawning area and will give you a very high output of experience and all those good drops. Okay, so once you've found a section where you have a couple of these adjacent intersections like this, and again, if you get three adjacent to each other, that's really good, but two is all you really need. Don't settle for less than two. You need to mark the spawning region where you will get Nether fortress spawns, and not just regular plain old nether spawns. To do that, we will take it one intersection at a time and simply outline the region around each intersection. So we'll start with this intersection here. You first place a block right in the middle of the intersection. Make sure that it's in the middle of the intersection. It should be like that. Notice that there is one block diagonally to each of the corners. This block is in the middle of the intersection. And now, in each direction, we count out 9 blocks away from this block here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And then we'll just do that to show that this is the end of it. Now we go this way. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 9. And notice that this ends right at the end of this walkway here. That's pretty common. Then we go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. We'll go like that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Like that. Now, you come to each of the ends of here, each of these little T things that gets generated, and you basically make a square connecting all 4 of these arms together, like this. At each of these intersections, you will get a 19 by 19 square for a spawning region. And yeah, as you can see, this is a very large spawning region that will give us a lot of spawning space to work with when making our wither skeleton farm. We'll just go ahead and do that. And then we do that. And when you finish, you will end up with one 19 by 19 square. I'm going to knock out these arms here and just leave the block in the middle for reference. Alright, so now we've outlined the walls of the spawning region. If we're standing on this block out here, say this one here, then we can get wither skeleton spawning. However, if we move out to this block here, we cannot get wither skeleton spawning on it, because this one is considered outside the nether fortress, but this one's considered inside. Now we have to mark the ceiling and the floor of this spawning region. So, the height of this spawning region is such that if we were to go 4 blocks above the walkway, we can get wither skeletons spawning, but if we go any higher, say this block up here, we cannot get higher. So wither skeletons can spawn on top of this block, they cannot spawn on top of this block here. In Cabo's video, he shows the region is going 5 above the walkways. However, that's because the way he's doing it, he's showing a block that is above the region. So he's saying this block marks the outside of the region. Basically, it's a fence post error. But 4 blocks above will give you the highest level of blocks that you'll get wither skeletons spawning on. So they'll spawn 4, so they can spawn on top of this block. But if we go 1 higher, they cannot spawn on top of this block. Just to clear it up, and I have tested it. I went 5 above the walkway, and I got a ghast spawn. Ghasts cannot spawn inside nether fortresses, so yeah. Okay, so we go out to here, and we count 4 blocks above the walkway. Well, this square is already 1 block above the walkway. We can actually do it at a corner if we want, but I'll just do it here. So we're already 1 block above the walkway, so now we go 2, 3, and 4. And then we make the same square that we had down here. And we just trace this square out, which I will do off camera. Alright, and there you have it. We have this square here shows the highest level of blocks that we'll get wither skeletons, and blazes for that matter, spawning on top of. So wither skeletons can spawn on top of this ring of blocks here. If we were to move outside 1 or up 1, we would not get wither skeletons spawning. They will not spawn on this block, and they will not spawn on this block here. Okay, so before we move on, let's check our work using our F3 screen. So we hit F3, and then we stand on the walkway, not on the rails, but the walkway, this walkway here, and we see that our Y equals 57. Now, if we stand on this top ring, we see that y equals 61. 61 minus 57 equals 4. We want this top layer to be 4 blocks above the walkway. Alright, so we got the ceiling of our spawning region traced. This is the highest level of blocks that we'll get wither skeletons spawning on top of. Now we need to mark out the lowest level where we'll get wither skeletons spawning. So the lowest level is 5 blocks below the level of the walkway. So if we come out to an edge here, I think it's easiest if we do it at an edge. Now the walkway is at this level here. Alright, so this block is the walkway, so we need to count 5 blocks below it. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And we'll come out here, so that we'll be under this square, and then we trace this square at 5 blocks below the level of the walkway. And again, we will check with our F3 screen. So the walkway, again, walkway is at 57, and if we stand on this block here that's 5 blocks below it, we get 52. 57 minus 52 is 5, so this level right here is the level that the bottom of our spawning region will be at. And remember, be careful that you don't count down from the rail, because if you're outside on this edge here, you might see this and mistakenly think it's the top of the walkway. It's not. This rail goes one above the walkway. It's this walkway here. This is the level that we care about. So always double check with your Y coordinate, because if you mess up on this part of the experiment, you can end up building your farm in the wrong place, and that is disastrous. So now that we have figured out where we want the bottom of our bounding region to be, we simply trace this square down here. So we come out to here, and of course it's going to be much more tedious to do in survival. You'll get to watch me do it when I build this in my Let's Play, and we'll have to dig out a couple tunnels through here, but that's okay. And we come on out here. Alright guys, there you have it. We have outlined the spawning region that is generated around this intersection here. It goes 4 blocks above the walkway and 5 blocks below. This region is a total of 10 blocks tall. So we can get wither skeletons spawning on here, but if we were to go one lower, they won't spawn on this block. They'll spawn on this one. This is the lowest block that they'll spawn on. And then these here, these are the highest blocks that they'll spawn on. And again, I can't stress it enough. I know it may have seemed clumsy and laborious the way I was emphasizing all the obvious points and double and triple checking, but it is really, really important. If you get this region wrong, then you're going to end up building your farm in the wrong place, and you're not going to have wither skeletons spawning on it. You could end up with, if you were to build this farm shifted up or down by one level accidentally, you could have an entire spawning floor without any wither skeletons spawning on it, which could be bad, which is bad, obviously. When I took an internship at a museum of machine tools, they always, and I would demonstrate the machine tools to people, they always said, when you machine, you need to think 3 times, measure twice, cut once. So really, think 3 times, get the dimensions right, then measure them twice, and then finally build the farm only once. You don't want to be building the farm more than once. Alright, so we got the spawning region around this intersection outlined. Now we need to do that for all these other intersections that are located along here. So we put the center block here, and we go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and would you look at that? These two adjacent intersections have their spawning regions just touching. It's almost as if Mojang planned that intentionally. You know, with all of the bullcrap that Mojang gives us sometimes, it was really nice of them to make these intersections commonly generate just the right distance apart from each other so that their wither skeleton spawning regions just kiss each other. They're the perfect distance apart. And you know what? This is extremely common. It is very common for intersections in Nether fortresses to generate this distance apart. So yeah, seriously, don't settle for a Nether fortress that has fewer than 2 adjacent intersections. If it doesn't have a pair of intersections that are this distance apart like this, don't use a Nether fortress. There are just far too many Nether fortresses that do have it, and it'll make your Wither skeleton farm much better. So seriously. Oddly enough, I haven't really seen any Nether fortresses that have these intersections generating closer together than that. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Mark that. Alright guys, so I have completely outlined the spawning region around each of these 2 intersections. Now I could have done this intersection as well, but for the purposes of this tutorial, I don't intend to make the farm span 3 whole intersection regions. But you totally could if you do it in survival, and it's very easy to extend my farm design to make it longer. So yeah, that is an option. It is not something I'm going to do for this tutorial, simply to keep the tutorial not as long and to make a little less work for me. And because 2 intersections is what you're most commonly going to find. And again, notice that the spawning regions for each of these 2 intersections, they touch, but they do not overlap. These 2 intersections are the perfect distance apart, and it is very easy to find pairs of intersections that are like this. So don't settle for a fortress that doesn't have a pair of intersections that is a perfect distance apart. So yeah, because you really want to get this 19 by 38 spawning region here. Alright guys, so now that we've got the spawning region outlined, I think it is time to do the step that is the hardest step when it comes to making a farm like this in the Nether. And that is sanitizing the area. If we were to just build this farm right here, we'd get very few mobs spawning in it. Because we have all of this area around here where mobs can spawn. And there's a limit to how many hostile mobs can be spawned at once. I believe it's about 80. So if there's 80 mobs spawned outside of our farm, we're not going to be getting any spawns inside. And our rate is going to be dependent on the rate at which mobs are despawning. And that is what you do not want. You cannot have mobs spawning outside of this farm. So what we have to do is prevent them from spawning by covering all of the area that is outside of our farm in half slabs, like this. Now, I'm not actually going to do that for this tutorial. I'll be doing something different, but I will show you where you need to half slab and whatnot for the tutorial. Now, before you just start throwing half slabs on everything, I think it's a good idea to outline the area that needs to be sanitized. So let's talk about where mobs can spawn. The game will try to spawn mobs in a 128 block radius around the player. So that means that we need to go to sanitize the area that is within 128 blocks of anywhere that the player will be standing when they're using this farm. For the sake of this tutorial, I'm just going to use the bounds of this farm as that region. So we need to go 128 blocks from each side of the farm. Now, let's say that we were to build a little enchantment room that's kind of out here. Well, then we'd have to go 128 blocks from that. Now, I'm going to draw an outline around the whole thing. You don't have to do it. I'm just going to do it for the sake of this tutorial. If you were to just draw occasional markers, that would be fine. Alright. So the game can spawn mobs within 128 blocks of the player. If a mob gets more than 128 blocks from you, it will automatically despawn instantly. So, let's go 128 blocks in each direction. That is what I'm going to do right now. So we'll start on this side, and we'll just go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 123, 124, 125, 126, 127, 128. Alright guys, so as you can see, we are really far away from the fortress. Well, actually you can't see because we ended up having to go into a wall of netherrack. And I think this is a different nether fortress, or maybe it's the same one. But yeah, it's going to be a huge area around here that you're going to have to sanitize. So yeah, you can't even see the area that I outlined from here. That should give you an idea of how big a job this is to build a farm like this. Alright, so now let's do the same thing on this side. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 125, 126, 127, 128. Then we'll just do that to mark the end of it. And yeah, can't even see the spawning region from all the way out here. So all of these blocks between this little T shape that I made here and our farm, gonna have to be half slabbed. Now you can see why we absolutely love that we have this lava ocean. Saves us so much work. Imagine if all this lava here was netherrack. We'd have to put half slabs on all of this. So yeah, definitely a good thing that we chose to build our nether fortress here. To use this nether fortress, as opposed to one that's surrounded only by land. Alright, so now we go out from this side. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 56, 57, 58, 59, 60, 81, 82, 83, 84, 125, 126, 127, 128. And now this side here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 91, 52, 53, 54, 55, 56, 91, 92, 93, 94, 95, 96, 127, 128. Whew, okay. Yeah, so, all this land here, all of this land here, all the way up to here. Oh, and all this nether fortress, all the nether fortress that we're not using, gotta be half slabbed. Yeah. Farming wither skeletons, not easy. If you don't think you can do a thorough job of half slabbing this huge area, back out now. Now is your chance to back out before you've wasted a whole bunch of resources and defaced a huge part of your nether. Alright, so now, just to give you a good visual idea of how large an area you have to half slab, I'm going to make a square all around this region that I've sort of just outlined. You do not have to do that or do this whole building out thing with blocks. You can just use your F3 screen. All that really matters is that you go 128 blocks from each side of your farm. And yeah, you definitely don't have to do it with glowstone. I'm just doing that so that it shows up easily. Alright guys, so I've completed the perimeter around here. Well, I completed half of it. Most of it is hidden under netherrack, so I didn't bother completing the whole thing. All that really matters is that you need to basically sanitize a rectangle that extends 128 blocks in each direction from each side of this. So 128 blocks out this way, out that way, and 128 blocks out this way, 128 blocks out this way, from this side of the farm, and this side of the farm, and from this side of the farm, and then 128 blocks out from this side of the farm. All that area needs to be covered with half slabs. Any solid spawnable blocks need to be covered with half slabs. If they're covered with lava, you don't need to do that, but you don't need to cover those obviously because mobs can't spawn in liquids. But yeah, so if we just look at this sort of half of the map here, come out along here, all of this fortress here that we're not using, all that, need to basically do that, cover it with half slabs like this. Make sure they're right side up half slabs, so when you stand on them and hit F3, make sure that your Y is at about a half integer. It should not be an integer. If you have them positioned, say, like this somehow, and you stand on it and you get an integer Y value, then that's right side up. Mobs can spawn on it, so you need to cover this ground here with half slabs. And you can't use torches because pigmen can spawn in any light level, so you have to use the half slabs. That's why building this type of farm in the Nether is a lot of work. So yeah, all this out here, basically between the square, the rectangle that outlines the ends of each of these 4 arms of glowstone that I've made going out, anything within that rectangle need to be half slab. So you're gonna have to half slab everything here that mobs can spawn on. Oops, like this. Yeah, don't need to half slab the fence posts because the mobs can't spawn on top of those. But yeah, all of this land gonna have to half slab. Anything like this, any little underhang, all of this area here, gonna have to put half slabs on it. So we're gonna have to go put half slabs all along here. And you'll want to do it in a very methodical and systematic fashion. A methodical fashion that'll probably take you about 15-16 hours to do, something like that. And then all up to here, all the way up until you hit this point here. This is the boundary, so we have to, if we stand under here and look straight up, we have to half slab here. Oh, and be careful not to double slab, because the double slab blocks mobs can spawn on. So if I do that, mobs can spawn on it. Alright, we don't have to go any further than this, but we'd have to half slab all the area in here, like this. All of that, everything. Yeah, it's going to be really, really, really annoying, but you know what? That's what you have to do if you want to build a wither skeleton farm. If you just want an experienced farm without all this hassle, go to the end and build an enderman farm. They're awesome, and it'll give you experience really fast. Again, we can't use, if we were doing this in the overworld, we could use torches because overworld mobs can't spawn on torches. But except for wither skeletons and to an extent blazes, torches don't really prevent pigmen from spawning at all, and blazes can spawn in any light level 11 or lower. So, and of course that's only in fortresses. So yeah, have to use half slabs. You could also, if you wanted, use lava. You could let lava flow over the area because mobs can't spawn on that either source blocks or flowing. But you only get 27 blocks of lava in your inventory. A little bit more if you use the hot bar, I guess, but yeah. So yeah, half slab's probably your best bet. I'm not going to be half slabbing the area. I'll be doing something different just for the purposes of this tutorial. But when I build this in survival, this is what I'll be doing. 14, 15, 16, maybe 20 hours of this. Yeah, it's hard work getting one of these farms going. Alright guys, so to simulate a perfectly sanitized area, I went into MC Edit and completely removed all of the netherrack, all of the nether quartz, or all of the gravel, all of the soul sand, all of the nether brick, basically all the spawnable blocks that are around this farm. Of course, when I do this in my survival world, I will be playing completely legit with no external mods, and I will instead spend like 20 hours putting half slabs over everything. Won't that be fun? Yeah, I think it will. Okay, so now that the area around this farm is completely sanitized, we are ready to start building the actual farm itself. And you'll also notice that I removed the beams that were in the middle of this, since we only need the outer bounds of the outline that we made. I just removed these center beams just because I thought they looked a little unsightly and were a bit confusing. Okay, so before we start building any spawning floors, we need to think very carefully about where we are going to put them, since we only have a limited space to work with, and we want to maximize the number of spawning floors that we can have so that we get the maximum amount of spawning area possible. So let's think for a moment. The mobs that we are interested in are wither skeletons, zombie pigmen, and blaze mobs. All those mobs are 2 blocks high. Well, wither skeletons are actually a little bit taller than 2 blocks high, but crucially they can still spawn in a 2 block high space. So a wither skeleton could spawn right here. So let's think. This row of blocks is the lowest level of blocks that wither skeletons can spawn on. If we go any lower, outside the nether fortress, normal nether spawns. So this is the lowest one. So the lowest spawning floor needs to be at this level that this green hardened clay block is on. And then we need to count up 1, 2, then put the next spawning floor, then we count up 1, 2, the next spawning floor, then count up 2, and would you look at that, 4 spawning floors fit in exactly into our little, into the region exactly. So, we're able to squeeze 4 spawning floors into this space here. So we'll have quite a good amount of spawning area for our wither skeletons to spawn on. So yeah, time to choose what you want to build this thing out of. Now for this tutorial, and when I build it in my survival world, I'm going to build it out of iron blocks. You can build it out of pretty much whatever you want, as long as you use basic common sense and, you know, don't build it out of something that ghasts can destroy or something that's flammable, because there are going to be blazes inside, especially the flammable part. I mean, you could probably, if you really wanted to make it out of sandstone, get away with doing that, considering that you did, theoretically, sanitize the area around this, so there won't be too many ghasts spawning. Alright, enough chit-chat. Let's get building. So in this tutorial, I'm going to start at the bottom spawning floor, because I think that'll be easier for you to build, you know, when you do this in survival and can't fly. And also because the bottom floor is a little bit different than the others, so I've wanted to showcase that first. Alright, so the first thing you're going to want to do is, with your choice of building block material, you're going to want to make a ring all the way around this the bottom level of the frame here. And on the 2 ends, the ring will touch the frame, but then when you get to the edge, you want to count 1, 2, 3, 4 blocks out, and then continue the ring like that. So there is 1, 2, 3 blocks of air between the edge of your spawning region and the inner edge of this ring. And then you just extend this ring so that it goes all the way around your farm. Oops. And yeah, it's going to be annoying. Your pinky's going to be really sore holding down shift while you one block at a time. Yeah, but hey, Mojang didn't want farming beacons to be easy, and that's essentially what you're doing here, since killing the wither skeletons really is what's difficult about farming withers. Okay, so the shifty floor design that we're going to use is popular to use in witch farms. However, in this wither skeleton farm, there's a little problem that we have to address if we want to use the design. This spawning region is 19 blocks wide from here to here. And a piston can only push a line of up to 12 blocks. It cannot push more than 12 blocks. So that means that we can't just have a row of pistons here that will, you know, push the spawning floor this way, and then have another row of pistons all the way over here that pushes it back. We wish we could, because that would be the most efficient, but pistons just aren't able to do it, and there's no way of amplifying redstone current so that it'll make pistons super powerful. Although that'd be a great upgrade for Mojang to add. Dinner bone, please. Maybe. Okay. Alright, so yeah, we need to split this thing in half, and my design works best if you split it exactly in half. So we need to start at this corner here, and then count this block on one side. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And then this 10th block we knock out, and we make a beam of blocks going down the middle. Like this. This block, this beam here, we're going to have pistons placed on either side of it. and the redstone will be running on top. It's not ideal to have the redstone taking up air blocks at the level that's above the spawning floor level, because that can hurt your spawning rate, but I couldn't find any solution that wasn't extremely costly and that wouldn't reduce your spawning rate in other ways. So whatever, can't be perfect in Minecraft. Alright, so now that we've got this basic ring and support beam in the middle done, we are ready to put on our pistons. So at this time, you need to choose one end of your wither skeleton farm that is going to be ugly. Alright, one end of your wither skeleton farm has to be hideously ugly, and you need to choose which end that is. So if you have an awesome scenic road through the Nether that gives you an awesome view of your wither skeleton farm, say coming from over there. You come through the Netherrack mountain and then open up into this huge clearing where you see the wither skeleton farm, and you're riding the minecart or riding your horse or something, and then you see the wither skeleton farm looming tall and impressive on this side. Well, don't choose this end to be the ugly end, alright? So, that means you should choose this end here, alright? Because it's going to look hideously ugly and not very impressive. Well, actually, it might be impressive, if you find complicated redstone that confuses most people, impressive. So, yeah, now is the time to choose, and we'll go ahead and make a little pixel drawing with blocks of a duck, just to show that it's supposed to be ugly. If you get the reference, you're awesome. Alright, so to mark this end as the ugly end, I'm just going to place some gravel blocks on top of this glowstone here, because gravel is about the ugliest thing in Minecraft, right? And then, and I'll put some half slabs on top of the gravel so that we don't get spawns up there. Okay, so this way I'll remember that this end is the ugly end. Okay, so now you've got the central beam done here, the divider beam done, you are ready to put in your pistons. So we'll start on this side, and we can just knock out this frame that we built marking the spawning region, because yeah, it's in the way, and it is included in the spawning region, at least the way I marked it. So yeah, so we put our pistons on the inside of this beam here like this, so that they are facing you, because remember, we're going to have a spawning floor of half slabs all in here, and the pistons are going to push it out this way towards this beam here. So let's start putting pistons in. So we count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. And when you get to a 14th piston, you can't put a piston here, because let's think about this. Redstone can only travel 15 blocks, 15 meters. A full strength redstone signal can only travel 15 blocks. And so if we want the signal to continue and travel the full length of this beam, that means that right here we have to have a repeater. Here, I'll just temporarily put one just to demonstrate. So we have to have a repeater right here. So that means that you can't have a line of more than 14 pistons, because one of the 15th piston won't be able to get powered, because there's a repeater on the block where the redstone would normally be, if we want the signal to continue on down the line. So for now, we'll just mark that by putting a block here instead of a piston, and we'll come back to that later. So now we do the next section of pistons. So we go 1, 2, 3, knock out these blocks, because they're in the way. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Then we put a block there. And then we do pistons the remaining distance. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Knock these out. 8. Okay, so now, and this is important, you need to come to the place where you have a regular building block instead of a piston. In other words, the dead spot in your piston line, and you need to make a beam of blocks that goes all the way to the outer ring like this. And then you do the same thing on the other side. Like that. do one for this section right here. Oops. Like that. And we can remove this repeater for now. Okay, these beams of blocks that you just put in that separate the line of pistons are really important. And I'm just going to talk about what they are. These mark out what I am going to call section junctions, or just junctions. Essentially, a wither skeleton farm is divided into, well, this one is divided into 3 sections. A section is basically a part that is getting redstone power. And then these beams mark the junction between the different sections. In these junctions are essentially a part of your farm that is dead, that is incapable of responding to the redstone signal that will go, that propagates throughout the entire system. And each section will basically respond to a redstone signal instantaneously, and then there will be a small delay between when this section responds and this section responds, because we have to have a repeater here. So there will be repeaters in these sections. Now that you have defined where your junctions are, it is important that you use these same junctions for all parts of your farm, all levels of it, of the spawning pad system, and even the system that's below the spawning pads that moves the mobs to the center. You have to have your junction sections in these 2 positions. Note that you do not have to make these junction sections here exactly 14 blocks. They can't go more than 14, but you don't have to go all the way to 14. Now, I just did that because if you're building an arbitrarily long wither skeleton farm, making the junction sections 14 blocks is going to allow you to get away with having as few of them as possible. However, we could say make these 2 junction sections only 12 blocks long, and then have this one be a bit larger, since this one's only 8. Alright, so now that we have our junction sections defined, we are ready to continue. So now, we basically do the same thing on the other side of this central beam. And we just put our pistons down, and now we don't have to count because we have the junction sections to guide us. So we just put pistons in between the end bar there and the junction section here. And yeah, just do it like that. Oop. And do use a different type of block to mark your spawning region than you use to build the thing. It'll help prevent confusion. Alright, so now that we've got our junction sections marked out and our first layer of piston, our inner rows of pistons done, we are ready to make the actual spawning pads. So you need to get some half slabs, and I think for this I'm going to use the brick half slabs because I don't think I've ever seen anyone do a tutorial and use regular plain old bricks for anything. So I'm going to do that, and because they stand out nicely against the iron. So, alright, so before we continue, there's a little talk we have to have. We have it every time we do anything with half slabs that involves mob spawning, and if you've seen my other videos and are tired of the rant, I do apologize. I just don't want any newer viewers to get confused because, hey, it's something that could easily be confusing, especially since I just spent a good 10 minutes or so talking about how you need to cover the entire area with half slabs to prevent mobs from spawning, and now I'm talking about making the spawning pads out of half slabs, so that could be confusing. Half slabs can be placed into configurations. We look at a block. All the blocks in Minecraft fit into predefined positions in the fabric of space. Now, a half slab can be placed, if you place it on the lower half of a block, then notice that this block, when placed adjacent to a full block, the top of the block will not be flush with the top of the adjacent block. However, if you place a half slab up here, the top of it will be this This type of half slab here is the type that mobs cannot spawn on top of. Alright? This is called a right side up half slab. If it helps, a right side up, if you place a half slab by clicking on the top of a full block, then you'll get a right side up half slab. Let me up. This type here, where the top of the half slab is, you see, flush with a full block that is placed adjacent to it. In other words, it's the top half of the half slab that is at an integer position. This is the type that mobs can spawn on. Okay, so now we are ready to make our spawning pads after that little rant. So we want to fill as much of the spawning region as possible with these spawning pads. Now, unfortunately, we did lose these central columns of spawnable blocks because we have to put the pistons there. And we also lost some to these junction sections, which is unfortunate, but don't worry, we still have a healthy portion of spawnable blocks available to us. So we'll start at this inner row of pistons here and at this end. So we'll start at the edge of the spawning region that we marked out. And then, if we just knock these out, we'll just go all the way up to this corner here. And this will be as far as we go. So in other words, the spawning pad is replacing the frame that we made to outline our spawning region. Then we come along here, replacing the frame blocks as we go, until we get to the junction section. Then we come in, and there you go. And then we fill all of the space between this outline that we made and the pistons. We fill it with one flat pad of upside down half slabs. And alright, so we got this spawning pad done. And now we simply do this for the rest of the spaces. We're essentially going to, at this level here, the level of these blocks here, the level of the first spawning pad, we're going to fill all the space that is within our spawning region and that is not occupied by the junction sections or the piston beam or the pistons. We're just going to fill them with these half slabs so that we get a spawning pad that is made of upside down half slabs. And we'll do that for the entire bottom, for this entire level here. Alright, so I'm just going to, off camera, complete all of the spawning pads for this bottom spawning floor here. And then we will continue. Alright, so I did this the spawning pads on one side of our pistons here. And before we continue, I think that we should do the pistons that go outside here. Just so that we're all on the same page here. So, for various reasons, we have to use sticky pistons on the outside for the bottom floor. Otherwise, we could have the pistons be one in. Because think about it. These pistons are going to, when they fire, they're going to push this spawning floor pad out this way, one block. So now the spawning pad will be out here. And we'd want it to be flush with the pistons. So that means we'd normally want regular pistons to be right here. And again, pretend these sticky pistons aren't there, so that they can then push it back. However, for various reasons, because of redstone that's going to be placed below here, regular pistons right here would be in the way. So that means, so for the bottom spawning floor, and only for the bottom spawning floor, we have to use sticky pistons, and then of course place blocks against the sticky pistons, and so that they can push our spawning pad this way. And it's important that you use the glass blocks here, because we need to use a full block that mobs will not be able to spawn on. And we can't use glowstone because that would light up the pads, and that would reduce the spawn rates for wither skeletons and blazes, but especially wither skeletons. So you just place the sticky pistons in there, then place glass blocks along them like that. And here we are. We have one side of this bottom spawning floor basically completed. Alright, and so now we do the same thing on the other side. Okay, so once you get all the spawning pads filled in and the pistons in place, if you got the spawning pads correct, there should be a 1 block gap between the outer edge of the spawning pad and these blocks that are adjacent to, that are stuck on the end of the sticky pistons out here. Because remember, the spawning pad is going to be pushed 1 block this way when these inner pistons fire, and then these pistons will, after a very short delay, will push it back. So now it is time to lay down the redstone that will power these pistons. So to do that, we first need to go to the ugly end of the wither skeleton farm. And if you remember, I placed these blocks of gravel here to show that this is going to be the ugly end of this farm. And I did that because gravel is the ugliest block in the entire game. So at the ugly end of your farm, you place 1 repeater just before this central beam that powers the central pistons. And then you do the same thing for this beam out here and this beam out here. When the farm is done, there will be a redstone circuit out in the air here somewhere, and it's going to supply power to these 3 repeaters here, and thus it will be responsible for powering these 3 arms of pistons. So now, and we'll start with the middle, you place redstone on all these blocks here, and when you get to the junction section, you place a repeater there. You place some redstone here, and a repeater there, and just repeat. And when you get to the end, you don't need to do anything here. If you wanted to, let's say that you had the a third intersection out here that you wanted to extend the farm into, then you could do that just by adding on a section. Which brings us to another point. The third spawnable section that we're not using is right here. Now, because this is a tutorial, that's alright, but if you were to have the situation where you have 3 adjacent intersections in your nether fortress and you're only going to use 2 of them, make sure the ugly end is not on the end that's adjacent to an unused spawnable intersection, because you're not going to be able to extend the farm this out through the ugly end, at least not easily. You'll have to rip out a whole bunch of redstone, whereas it'd be easy to extend it this way. Again, it doesn't matter for this one because it's a tutorial, but in your survival world, definitely make the ugly end on the end of the farm that is not adjacent to an unused nether fortress intersection. So now we do the same thing with the other arms right here. Just put down redstone, put the repeater. Make sure that the repeaters always point toward the non-ugly end. Remember, the repeaters are trying to carry the redstone away from the ugly end because redstone currents don't like ugly things, I guess. Oh, yeah, whatever helps you remember. Sometimes I think of the stupidest mnemonic devices ever, but I don't know, I mean, they work for me, so whatever. Now that we have finished the redstone for the bottom spawning floor, we need to place half slabs over it, because otherwise we could have mobs spawning on the blocks. And we do not want that, because like if a mob spawned here, there's nothing to clear it from the system, and we just get mobs accumulating up here, and they take up the mob cap and reduce the efficiency of our farm. We don't have to place half slabs over the repeaters because mobs cannot spawn on top of the repeaters. A repeater counts as a partial block. If you'll notice, it has a hitbox. Notice when I stand here and then once I hit the repeater, I move up slightly, and that prevents mobs from spawning on it. So a repeater acts like a half slab of sorts. But yeah, we have to put half slabs on all of the redstone. That's going to be a theme throughout this tutorial. Whenever we have redstone, we're going to very often be putting half slabs on top of it. We now need to make these rings that go around each spawning pad section. And basically each continuous rectangle of upside down half slabs. We need to make a ring that goes all the way around it. And this ring stops right here. Notice that this ring is going over the gap between the pistons and the spawning pad. And we need to do this for each of the spawning pads. And this will keep the mobs from wandering outside of the area of the spawning pad. I like to do it one section at a time, just so that I don't get confused and do it wrong. When you are done, it should look like this, and unfortunately these things here, parts of the frame, are kind of obstructing our view. But yeah, each ring should exactly surround each of the spawning pads, but it should not overlap it at all. And of course we don't need to have blocks where the repeaters are, because mobs can't spawn on them. To finish, we simply place half slabs here over these blocks, and we don't have to place half slabs over the pistons because mobs actually cannot spawn on top of pistons, which is weird, but it's one of the weird quirks of Minecraft. Mobs also can't spawn on top of bedrock, which is why I didn't get rid of the bedrock down there. I think they did that because otherwise you'd have mobs spawning on top of the Nether, which would be stupid. And yeah, just making sure to cover up all the blocks that they could spawn on with half slabs. Now it's time to build more spawning floors. Listen up, because the second spawning floor is a little bit different than the first one. We've already marked the levels that each of our spawning floors will be at. So simply go to one of the corners of the spawning region, the outline that you made for the spawning region, and then at the block that we marked here, that's above the spawning floor, there should be 2 blocks space between here and the spawning floor. You can place a block here to start your outer ring for the second spawning floor. And we simply make the ring, comes all the way out like this, and on the end it is flush against the spawning region. But then, and this is where the second spawning floor is slightly different from the first one, instead of going all the 4 blocks out from the edge of the spawning region, we only go 3. So we go 1, 2, 3, and then here we make this outer edge of the ring here. The reason we do that is because we're not going to be using sticky pistons for this spawning floor. Oops. So we don't need to go out as far. When you are done, the ring should look like this. It should be directly above the half slabs here, and there should be 2 blocks of space between the outer edge, the edge of the ring here, and this and the edge of your spawning region at the sides, and no space between the ring and the spawning region at the ends. Then, as we did before, we can go ahead and make the central piston beam here. And now, it gets a little bit easier for us because we have already defined where our junction sections are, so we can go ahead and add those in now. And they will sort of act as a visual guide to us when we put in our pistons and do the redstone. So, yep, can do that now. And again, make sure that the junction section, the beams at the junction sections, go directly above the beams for the junction sections on the spawning floor below. In other words, we've defined where the junction sections are, and we can't go saying, oh, the junction section for this platform is right here. No, can't do that. It has to stay in the same spot. Otherwise, we will get issues. Now that we have the frame for the second spawning floor done, we can add in our pistons, just like we did below. And now we do the outer pistons, and we use regular pistons instead of sticky pistons, because there's no redstone below them that will end up disrupting them. So, no need to use the sticky pistons. Oops. Oops. Now that the pistons are all done, we can go ahead and do the redstone. And we make sure that we start on the ugly side of the farm. We place repeaters here, here, and here, and then place the redstone, just like we did with the bottom spawning floor. Then we put half slabs over all of the exposed redstone wire, and then just like with the first spawning floor, we make these rings surrounding each spawning pad to keep the mobs from wandering off of them. Oops. Wrong one. When you're finished, just double check to make sure that your rings are in the correct location. They should be directly outside the area of each spawning pad, directly adjacent to it, but not overlapping, yada yada yada. And then, just like the bottom, we place the half slabs that are over all these little extra blocks that didn't get half slabbed the first time. Things like, oh, there's a couple over here. And then, of course, we do the spawning pads themselves. We go flush to the inner pistons and come out to this corner here, leaving a 1 block gap between the edge of the spawning pad and the outer pistons, just like the bottom spawning floor. And then we just fill it in. When it's done, it should look like this. The third spawning floor is completely identical to the second spawning floor, so we're not even going to really talk about it. I'm just going to do it off camera, and then we'll move on from there to the fourth spawning floor, which is basically completely identical to the second spawning floor, except for one tiny little thing at the top. And through the magic of video editing, the third spawning floor is now finished after about 1 second of time. Yes, I love video editing. When I'm the one watching a video, I absolutely hate it when I'm the one doing the editing. But I still do it because I love you guys. And then we start the fourth spawning floor by placing a block right at the level that we marked out for the spawning floors, and we make the ring, just like we did before. I'll be doing most of it off camera, except for one little part at the end that is a little bit different from the other spawning floors. Okay, so once you've made the fourth floor spawning pads and the place the pistons and the redstone and all that, now this is where the fourth spawning pad gets just a little bit different from the second and third ones. So we still make the rings around the outside to keep the mobs in. However, this time we're going to use full blocks. And the reason that we do this is because of magma cubes. I think. It was actually quite a long time ago that I designed this farm, but I remember that I found that on the top we want to use full blocks for the rings around the outside, and then of course we will be putting the half slabs on top so that we don't get spawns up there. Yeah, I seem to recall that small ones were able to jump over the other blocks, the half slabs at this level. I think that's why I did it, but I just remember that I had a very good reason for doing full blocks for the rings around the outside here. So that's what we're going to do. So yeah, and then of course we put half slabs in, and then of course we'll half slab the over the redstone, keep those mobs from spawning. Then of course once you get these containment rings in place, containment rings, that's what I should have been calling them all along. You just put half slabs on top so that mobs don't spawn on them, because you really can't afford to have any mobs spawning outside the farm and accumulating up in there. They just cause problems. And then of course you just do the exact same thing on the other side, and when you are done it should look like this. And of course we don't want to forget to half slab all the other exposed spawnable blocks, mainly over where the redstone is. And of course we can skip the repeaters if we want to, but also when placing the half slabs on exposed blocks like this that don't have redstone, don't place them right on the block. I'll get more into that later, but basically all of the blocks around the spawning pads, actually within a radius of actually up to 21 blocks away, or up to 20 blocks away, ideally. The level that's immediately above the level that the spawning pads are on, so basically this level here, you don't want to put any blocks at this level here. Ideally you wouldn't have anything, even redstone or something counts, but unfortunately it can't really be avoided in this design, but you want to obstruct as few of those air blocks as possible, because that will reduce the spawning rate. I'll talk more about that later, but just for now, if you can help it, don't like put a half slab on this block here. I mean, this is an unnecessary obstruction. We could put it up here and not obstruct the air block up here, right here. So that's something I probably should have mentioned earlier in the tutorial, but I forgot, and I don't want to really redo the whole thing, so yeah. Alright guys, now you just have one more little thing that we need to do to finish up this top portion of the farm. The problem with it, the way it is now, is that large magma cubes will be able to jump over this wall, and then they'll be out and they'll probably never despawn if they're within 32 blocks of the player. So what we're going to do is you just come to a corner here, and then you count 1, 2, and then the third, and then a third block here, and then you just make these beams of glass that go down the length of your farm, and make sure that they are 2 blocks, that there's 2 blocks of space under them, like that. And we need to use glass because we need a full block, but we need to use a full block that won't cause suffocation damage, because although wither skeletons can spawn in a 2 block high space, if they spawn under, say, this block of iron, they'll take suffocation damage, and because we're going to be weakening them down to half a heart of health, if a wither skeleton takes any suffocation damage, then it will end up dying later on in the mob weakener of our farm. And half slabs, I don't think. I seem to recall doing experiments with using half slabs for that, and they don't. And a half slab that's leaving a 2 block high space, I don't believe will prevent a large magma cube from spawning. In other words, it's able to spawn with its head partly in a half slab, but not in a glass block. I remember I experimented a whole lot with this a few months ago, and I found that glass blocks work best. If you're worried about ghasts, well, half slab the area, damn it, and they won't spawn. No, but seriously, if you're worried about ghasts, you can put like a roof on top of these beams. Like you could do that. That'd give them some protection, or just cover the whole thing. Oh no, with a half slab roof. But it shouldn't be necessary. Alright guys, congratulations! You just finished the spawning pads for your Wither skeleton farm. Take a step back and admire your work. Damn, don't that look impressive? Yeah, it looks really impressive. So now, to demonstrate that we did in fact build it in the correct place, we are going to turn on mob spawning and show that the correct mobs are spawning. Oop, got a blaze there. Don't see that spawning in the regular Nether. Got some blazes over there. And if you properly sanitize the area, they will spawn like crazy. And we're getting Wither skeletons. So yeah. Of course, if you're playing in survival and you don't put the game on peaceful, which will be the case when I build this in my Let's Play, you'll have mobs spawning there while you're trying to build, which will be a big pain in the arse. You'll get to see how to deal with that when I do this in my Let's Play. But for now, this is a tutorial. Just going to do that. Now we need to wire the 3 arms of pistons on each floor together. We'll start with the bottom floor because it's slightly different from the others. So we come out to the end here, right where this repeater is, and we're on the ugly side of our redstone farm. And this is the part where it will start to get ugly. We make a beam of blocks coming along here. This will be where the redstone is placed that connects to the 3 arms. Then, of course, we put redstone on it like this. Being careful not to miss any, like that. Now, we place a block right here in the middle with the repeater facing inward. This is going to be our input port, where we send a signal when we want the entire spawning floor to do the shifty thing, to do the hokey pokey to knock the mobs off. Now, we come out to the sides and we put a repeater here. And we also set this repeater, the one that was already here, to a 2-tick delay. And we do the same thing to the other side. This will ensure that these pistons here, the side ones, will fire after the central pistons, which is important because they have to push the spawning pads back towards the center after they've been shifted out this way. Now we do basically the same thing for the other 3 spawning floors with this one small important difference. The difference being that we leave these side repeaters at a 1-tick delay and instead use 2 1-tick repeaters in front of them like this. We do that because since we're not using sticky pistons up here, there is really no need to lengthen the pulse that comes to these pistons to 2 ticks. And then of course we have the input repeater right here. 3rd and 4th floor are absolutely identical to the 2nd floor, so I will do them off camera. When you are done, it should look like this. Not really starting to get ugly yet, but soon enough it will. And of course we don't want to forget to, wrong block, to put half slabs on top of all of the exposed redstone so that we do not get mobs spawning up there. Because let me tell you, if you sanitize the rest of the Nether well enough, the mobs will spawn like crazy on any exposed spawnable block that you have. So we have to make sure that the only exposed spawnable blocks are inside our farm. Once you are finished, it'll look like this. Alright guys, so now we need to wire the different floors together into pairs, and I will explain why later on. So we start down here at this input node or port that we have. We come out 2 and then 1, 2, 3, 4, like that. Then we make a little staircase and climb up to the next level, like this. These will be the blocks that the redstone is on. And then once you've connected it here, you bring it out one like this, and then 1, 2, 3, 4 the other way this time. Bring it up. And we do it one more time. First we come out one, then 1, 2, 3, 4, then staircase up. Then we bring this out one, and 1, 2, and that's good for now. Now, we're of course going to place a redstone on this little staircase we've created. So, we place a redstone here, and then on this first block here, we put a repeater facing that way, and a repeater facing this way, with redstone there. I think I'm actually just going to do the repeaters first. So, do a repeater this way, and this way, here, and a repeater this way, and this way here. And then we put a repeater facing this way, like that. Now, all the blocks that we haven't put a repeater on, we just put redstone on, like this. Now, we come to each of the blocks where we go into a block that's where the two repeaters pointing away from each other like this, and we place a block there and a repeater pointing into that junction. These are going to be the input ports for our redstone signals that will power each individual floor, or rather pairs of floors. And we put a repeater here just for consistency. So what did we just do? Well, what we did is we just connected the floors into pairs of floors. You see, when large magma cubes spawn in here, if both the floor and the ceiling don't shift at about the same time, then the large magma cube will have trouble falling through for various reasons. So we have to shift the floors in pairs. So during each shifting cycle, first the top floor by itself will shift, then the fourth floor and the third floor will shift, then the third floor and the second floor will shift, and then the second floor and the first floor will shift. So they shift in pairs. So when we want to shift the top floor and the third floor, we put a signal in here. This one will, as you can see, it will power this floor and the one above it, and this one will power this floor and the one above it. So yeah, and the repeaters prevent a signal that comes up this way from traveling up and powering the entire thing, which is what we want. Now you come to each of the input ports that we just created, the place where the repeater points into the redstone that's between these two opposite facing repeaters, and you place an upward facing sticky piston in front of it with a block on top of it, just like that. And we do the same thing here and here. And then on this one up here, the one that's slightly different from the others, because obviously there's no floor above the top floor, because otherwise the top floor wouldn't be the top floor and the other floor would be the top floor. Now it is time to make the redstone clock that will power all the spawning floors. So, to do that, we come up to this top sticky piston here, and we come out 2 blocks, and then we move over like this and go up 1, and staircase up 1, 2, 3, 4, like that. And we move in 1, and we make a 4x4 ring that is a square, like that. Now, going in a counterclockwise direction, we place 8 repeaters all the way around, and we set all of the repeaters to a 4-tick delay, except for one of them. We'll do this one, which is a 2-tick delay. So we want the total delay all the way around the ring to be 30 ticks. So then, right down here, we come over to here, and we bring out a little ring of blocks down here. We knock this block out, and we put a sticky piston, with a solid block on top of it. Please note that you don't have to use a diamond block everywhere I'm using a diamond block. I'm just doing that to make it stand out because, you know, I'm in creative. Then we place a sticky piston here on this corner of this little lower ring as well with a diamond block on top of it. And we place redstone at the other 3 corners here and just leave this one as it is. Then we place a repeater here pointing at this block here. And we place some redstone along here and place a lever on any of these blocks that'll power this redstone here. What we just created here with this lower ring is an on-off switch. When we turn the lever on, it both raises this piston, allowing the repeaters in the clock to pass power through it, and it fires this pulse generator here, which will generate a one-time short pulse into the clock to get it started. When we lower the lever, this block gets lowered, these repeaters can no longer pass power to these ones, and the clock stops. To test it, let's first run some redstone wire all the way down here, and we have this wire going into this pulse generator, so when the clock is running, the top floor spawning pads will do the hokey pokey. If we get up here, we can clearly see that the inner pistons push each of the spawning pads out towards the edge, and then very quickly the outer pistons push it back in. This quick shifty motion will cause any mobs that are standing on this spawning pad to glitch through the spawning pad and fall through to the one below it. We will of course have all 3 spawning floors doing that, so that any mobs that spawn up here will pretty quickly be flushed out of it, will be knocked off the spawning pads and will fall down to our collection area. Do note that because they shift so quickly, you will occasionally, or not so occasionally, get graphics glitches with the rendering of the spawning pads themselves, and sometimes it may look like an entire section is not doing the shifty thing at all. But don't worry, if you see the redstone here activating and you set it up exactly the way I showed you, it will in fact be doing the hokey pokey. Sometimes you'll also see parts of it turn invisible. But just, yeah, if you did everything correctly, it will still be shifting, even if it doesn't always look like it. Now, we need to connect the 4 sets of spawning floors together, these 4 input ports, signified by these 4 sticky pistons here, together, so that the floors fire in the correct sequence. Alright, so we're going to start from the bottom. We go 1, 2, and we staircase up 1 here, then we go up 1 right here. Bring this all the way over here, bring this out 3, and then we staircase up 1 here and go up another 1, bring it over 3, come out 2 here, and we come up there like that, staircase up 1 here, and we bring it over this one out here like that, and there we have it. We have the track that the redstone will be placed on. And as you can see, it kind of forms a little backwards S. It's little number 2. Okay, now we do the redstone, and we're going to start at the top because I think it is clearer. So we put a redstone here, and then 2 repeaters here. First repeater we need to set to 4 ticks. The second one we leave at 1 tick. So we have a total of 5 ticks delay here. And we bring down some more redstone here. Have redstone going in there. And then 2 more repeaters here. Again, first one at 4 ticks. Bring the signal down like this. Then 2 repeaters on this arm. First one on 4 ticks. And we bring the signal down like that. And we are done. So now we can test this by turning the clock on. You should see the platforms firing in pairs. First the top one fires, then the top one and the 3rd floor fire, then the 3rd floor and the 2nd floor fire, and the 2nd floor and the 1st floor fire. So any mobs that spawn on top of it will go ba-doom, 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 ba-doom. Just like that. Let's turn on mob spawning so that we can see this thing working. And of course the blazes, yep, see that? They all fell down. The funny thing is, the shifty floor thing even works on blazes, even though they're considered a flying mob. That's because when they're not chasing a player, they're considered a land mob. In fact, they even make footstep sounds, so that is why we are able to use the shifty floor technique to glitch them down. Wasn't it nice of Mojang to do that? Alright, now that we have this thing, we can turn it off because the noise is annoying. There's just one last thing we gotta do. That's right. Gotta put half slabs over all of this redstone, and we have to put half slabs on top of these blocks that are pushed by the sticky pistons. Don't worry, when the sticky pistons try to fire, they will push the half slab up one level where it's supposed to be. So, yeah. And don't worry about these half slabs, they will not cut off the redstone signal because half slabs don't do that. They're just not quite heavy enough to do it. And yeah, if we don't do the half slabs, we get this situation here. Okay guys, so there's just one little thing that I forgot to mention earlier with this on-off switch. You'll notice this block gets stuck up here. We can fix it pretty easily by making this repeater 2 ticks long. Okay, so now that the spawning pad assembly is complete, we could just build a little platform down here and have at it with a sword and bow as they spawn, run around chasing them all over the place, but that might be a little bit dangerous. And it also, because they're spread out over such a wide area, it also prevents us from really having a good weakening system. So we need to move these mobs to one location so that we can weaken them so that they're a one-hit kill by hand, and then we can collect experience easily just by going boom, 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 boom. You guys have seen like a typical Enderman farm or something, right? You've seen that? Oh, good. Okay, good. Okay, let's get to it. So the first thing we have to do is turn this off because it's annoying, and because we're doing a tutorial, I don't feel guilty at all about turning the mob spawning off for the purposes of the tutorial. Again, when I do this in my Let's Play, you'll get to see me do all this with no creative and with angry blazes flying all over the place shooting fireballs at me. Or maybe I'll just take a potion of invisibility. Woohoo! To start building the centralizer, first make sure that you're at the ugly end of your farm, and then come down to the lowest spawning floor. Alright, see this block here? It's one that is right in front of the arm of the line of pistons that's on the left-hand side of the central beam. Do use the left-hand side. My directions about left and right relative to this block will be reversed if you end up if you were to choose the right one. So choose the left one here. I'll even change this block to a different color. I'll do this purple block just to make it stand out. We need to get a block that is directly below, that is 13 blocks below this block here and directly under it. Now because I'm in creative, I'm just going to do that by counting down 13 blocks, but if you were in survival, you'd have to use your F3 screen and build up from a block on the ground or something, or build out from, maybe there's a piece of the fortress that's still intact that you can use to build over to it. So we count down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. So we have this block here. Once we have that, we obviously don't need these anymore. Once you have your block at the position that I specified, you need to double check your work. So you can check that it's directly under the purple block by looking straight up and making sure your mouse is straight up and making sure it's pointed on the purple block. So I look straight up and my mouse is pointed on the purple block, so I am directly under that block. You also need to make sure that it is at the correct height. Seriously, double and triple check at this point. If you get the height wrong, then you are in for a world of hurt. You're going to have to redo a whole bunch of stuff, and you're going to just hate your life so much. So, stand on the spawning pad, look at your F3 screen, and see, oh, okay, we are at y equals 52. Now we'll put this back. Let me out. Jesus, come on, let me out. So y on the spawning pad equals 52. And we stand here and we see that y equals 39. 52 minus 39 is 13, which is what it needs to be. So we are directly under this block here and 13 blocks below it. You know what? This block is so important that I'm going to make it purple, so that we always know that it is the starting block. So now, making sure we're facing from the ugly end of the farm towards the pretty end, we come 3 blocks to the right of the purple block, and we come 1 block in that way, and then we come 1 block in like that. Now, we need to build 38 blocks this way, counting this block we already placed. So this iron block counts as 1. So 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 33, 34, 35, 30, 36, 37, 38. And then we come 1 more out and make a corner like this. We build a couple more blocks out this way, and then go 38 blocks back in this direction here until we meet up with this, and we have formed this ring. Before we move on, I cannot stress enough how crucial it is that you got this ring positioned correctly. Everything is going to, that we build from here on out, is going to be positioned relative to this ring. So if you got this in the wrong position, you're in for a world of hurt. So we're going to check each of the corners of this ring to make sure they're in the right spot. We should already have this block. It's directly under this block that's part of the outer ring of the ring that surrounds the spawning pads, and it's right in front of the arm of pistons that is on the left-hand side of the central dividing beam. And by left, I mean left when you're facing the ugly side of the farm, as we are right now. Then this block should be, have 2 blocks to the right. So there's a 2 block gap between the edge of this block and the edge of this block. And it needs to be directly under this block that is just to the right of the point where the arm of pistons is, like that. Yes, at this point, the farm is no longer perfectly symmetrical, and that is okay. That is totally intentional. Do not worry. You are building it right. And then this corner here needs to be, both these 2 corners need to be under this ring that is at the end of, that marks the opposite end of the spawning pads. Okay, so now, at the ugly end of your farm, we need to come to the left corner of the ring, the one that I've marked that is purple here, and we need to count 1, 2, 3 blocks out. Then we need to start staircasing up, and we need to staircase up 6 blocks. So this was 1, so now we go 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now we do the same thing with this corner, except that we only count 2 blocks out. So 1, 2, then we start to staircase up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now we simply extend, with this frame here, we simply extend it all the way to the other end of our ring using the building block of our choice. So obviously, if you plan to build this out of iron blocks in survival, you are going to need one heck of an iron farm. When you are finished, it will look like this. Kind of looks like a set of bleachers, huh? Now we need to get some redstone torches ready. Not regular torches, redstone torches. And we need to come up to the side of this first level of blocks that sort of staircases up. So this row right here, we skip the first block here, but put torches on the sides of all the rest of them, like this. And then when we get to the end, we don't put a torch on here either. Now we go across to the other side and basically mirror what we just did. When you are done, it should look like this. Now we skip this next sort of staircase up, so this next layer, and we go to this one. So we go 1, we skip number 2, and we go 3. So it'll go 1 to 3, and then we do the same thing at this level here, this third level up. And of course we mirror it on the other side as well. We now place our final rows of torches, and again we skip a level here and go to this level here, and we place the torches all along here, and just the way we did for all the other rows of them. And we do the same thing on the other side. So it still is pretty symmetrical, it's just not perfectly symmetrical. Hey, remember those section junctions that we talked about a million years ago? Well, guess what? They're still important here. So we need to take them into account. So first, go to the first section junction, make sure you're standing right under it, and then along this slice of blocks that is directly under the section junction, you need to knock out the torches and place a full block in the space where the torch used to be. Just like that. Then we go across and of course do the same thing on the other side. Like that. And again, double check and make sure that this point where you remove the torches is directly under your section junction. So if we build up like that, you can see that it is directly under our section junction. Then we do the same thing for the other section junction. So let's see, we are right under this one. So we need to get rid of this torch, and this torch. And then we go across here and do the same thing. Now that you've got your section junctions marked, ready to move on to the next part. So we simply take some redstone dust and put it on top of all the blocks that have torches attached to the sides of them. And when we get to a section junction, we put a repeater. Make sure you start at the ugly end of your farm and work your way towards the non-ugly end. And make sure that the repeaters are always pointing towards the non-ugly end. That's really what's important. When you're done, it should look like this. Do make sure that all your repeaters are pointing away from the ugly end and towards the non-ugly end. Very important that you do that. Now you're going to need some glowstone. So you need to come right here, right to this block that's at the end of it's just before we start to staircase up. You need to put a glowstone right here. Then you need to skip a staircase, put a glowstone there, and put a glowstone there. So in other words, you're putting glowstone at the end of each line of blocks that does not have torches attached to it. Then we do the same thing on the other side. We only go 3 blocks of glowstone. We don't need to put one right here. You will see why in a moment. Then we need to put our regular building blocks on the ends of all the other ones here, like this. We do not need to do this at the other end of our farm. When you are done, it should look like this. Now I need to take a repeater and place it on this block here so that it is pointing towards the glowstone. You need to set it to 4 ticks, and you do the same thing on the other side. Now we take some redstone dust, put one here, and then a repeater here, and we leave it on the 1 tick delay. Then on top of this second piece of dust, we place a block to cut the signal off. And notice that the torches will now start flashing. That is supposed to happen. And like everything, or not everything, but almost everything, we do the same thing on the other side. So now we essentially do the same thing for all the other rows of torches, except that we only set this first repeater to 3 ticks instead of 4. Cut this off, the signal off. When you're done, it should look like this. Please don't have a seizure. Don't be alarmed if graphics glitches make it so that some of the torches don't light up. That can sometimes happen when you have a whole bunch of crazy stuff going on. Now, you come to this block here that we placed to cut off the redstone here, so it doesn't just form one long line here. Come to this block, you put a half slab on the inner side of it, put a redstone dust on top of the half slab, then you place a full block on top of that block, and a torch on the outer side of this block, in other words, the side that's towards the outside of the farm. And notice that now, this line of blocks of torches shuts off, which is what we want. And yeah, those ones shut off too once they update. Do the same thing on this one here. Torch. We don't do it on this one because there's no redstone on this side. So on these 2 blocks that were placed to cut it off, we do that. Then we do it on this one here. Block on top here. Half slab on inner side. Torch on the side of this block. And we do the same thing over here. Put a block on top here. Half slab on inner side. Redstone dust on top of the half slab, of course. And a torch on the side of this block. And now the upper 2 rows of torches are completely shut off. Now we come to this first block of glowstone, which is come out 1, and then build all the way over here. And we connect with redstone. And then we take a switch, need a lever. And we flip it, and that will turn off all the torches. All these torches are going to be controlling sticky pistons, and for various reasons, the bottom 2 rows of torches are going to need to be on a timer, while the rest of them are going to be controlled by a tripwire. That's why we have this little thing with a lever right here instead of doing this thing for the bottom ones. If you do not have a really good slime farm at this time, get one now, for you are going to need a whole lot of sticky pistons. Come over to the left side of your farm, left when facing the ugly side, and add sticky pistons right in front of this bottom layer of torches, like this. Make sure they're facing towards you and not facing up. When you get to this block here, the junction section, add a standard block instead of a sticky piston, because there's nothing to power the sticky piston there. When you finish the line, you can just add a block like there, and there you have it. Now, come to the other side, and in the spot where you would put sticky pistons, you simply place a row of regular solid blocks, like this. Now, place glass blocks immediately in front of the row of solid blocks that you just placed, like this. Now take solid blocks and place them in front of the sticky pistons that you just placed on this first layer here. I'm using a different type of solid block than what I'm building the rest of the farm out of, so to emphasize the fact that they're blocks that are being pushed by sticky pistons. When you're done, you should look like this. Now we put sticky pistons on top of these torches here, so that we are beginning to form a sticky piston staircase. You can do this by clicking on the top of the torch. Notice when you move over the torch, you see a little hitbox around it. Just click on the top of that hitbox and you'll place the sticky piston, no problem. When you're done, you can just fill in like this, so that we kind of have a little staircase of iron or whatever block you're using on the outer edge of the piston staircase. When you're done, you can take glass blocks this time. Make sure it's glass, not a solid block, and place them in front of the row of sticky pistons that you just placed. And again, at the junction sections, we're using a solid block instead of the glass blocks because no sticky pistons at the junction section. At this time, you can begin placing iron blocks alongside all the sticky pistons and blocks that are being pushed by sticky pistons on both ends. I forgot to do that right while I was doing it for some reason, but you can do, there's no reason not to do this basically as you're placing the sticky pistons, so yeah, it's not going to be in the way of anything, so may as well do that. Now you can do the same thing on the other side right here, placing sticky pistons on top of, and as I said, we will be placing these iron blocks here now. Place the sticky pistons on top of the torches just like you did on the other side. When you get to the end, you can of course just fill in with iron blocks up to the point where the sticky pistons are. Now we are ready to place our glass blocks in front of these sticky pistons. Oops. Again, when you get to the end, just place an iron block here. So far, we should look like this, looking at the ugly end of your wither skeleton farm. If you flip this lever now, you'll notice that these two rows of sticky pistons fire at a regular interval. This will help push mobs towards the center. Again, if there are graphics glitches that show some of the pistons not firing, if you did everything right, don't worry, they are still firing. It's just that sometimes there are rendering glitches. Now we do the same thing for the next row of torches. You can of course put a block here. We just put sticky pistons in front of them like this. And again, it will be a little bit tedious to click on the front face of the torch. It is rather small, but that's what you gotta do. No one ever said farming wither skeletons was easy. And again, once you get to the end, just build up with iron blocks like that. And then you can start your next row of sticky pistons. And once you reach the end, you can simply, again, place an iron block there, like that. Now we place glass blocks in front of these newly placed rows of sticky pistons. Oops, don't want to forget to place that iron block there, like that. Now we do the same thing on the other side. When we are done, it should look like this. Notice that we only have 3 rows of pistons on the right-hand side of our farm because, well, we didn't put a row of pistons down here. Now it is time for our last row of sticky pistons. So we start off with our iron blocks, and you can place on the side of a repeater by holding down shift to avoid changing the tick delay of the repeater. When we finish this row, fill in the end with solid blocks and begin the next one. Now we place the glass blocks in front of these sticky pistons just like we did for all the others, but we don't want to forget a solid block here and here. Basically starting off the rows of the glass blocks. Oops. Now we do the exact same thing on the other side. When you are done, it should look like this. Looks like a set of bleachers where each row is basically a row of sticky pistons with glass blocks on the end, except for this first row on the left hand side where we have solid blocks on the end. Now we need to add some tripwire hooks. So we'll start with the left side of our farm. We come to this half slab with the redstone on it and click on the side of that redstone dust like that to place a block here. Then of course we need a tripwire hook. And we place it here, like that. Now we place a block on top of this redstone dust, place a tripwire hook there, and then we place a block on the side of this redstone dust here, and place a tripwire hook there, and then one more on top of this redstone dust here, like that. Now we do the same thing on the other side. So we start with this innermost half slab with the dust on it. We'll move this closer there so it's easier. Tripwire hook, and a block on top of the dust, tripwire hook, a block to the side of the next dust, tripwire hook, and finally a block on top of that, tripwire hook. Now we need some tripwire. And we need to, with each tripwire hook, extend a line of tripwire along the entire length of the Wither skeleton farm. Obviously when you're doing this in survival and running backwards, be careful not to run off the edge like that, or you could fall into lava or whatever. And we stop right here. So basically the tripwire is as long as it goes until the line of pistons ends. And it stops right before we get to this full block end cap here. There will of course be another tripwire hook in right here, right on facing the side of this block. But we're not going to place it yet because then we'll have these pistons pushing us off while we try to run along here, which is a pain in the butt. And we just do this for each of those tripwire hooks that we placed. When you're done with the tripwire, it should look like this. Not much to see because you can't really see the tripwire, but you should have 8 lines of tripwire, one for each of the hooks that extend all the way to where the rows of pistons end. Before we continue, we're going to want to start filling in these ends with glass right here. We want to have, obviously we want to, have the Wither skeleton farm enclosed to keep mobs from getting out. We also want to keep blazes inside the farm, and this is important from being able to see the player while they, when the player is outside the farm, because we will eventually have to have vines here, and those are flammable, and if blazes are shooting, if they see the player, they'll try to fly, which means that this system will not be able to move them, and they'll shoot fireballs, which, will burn the vines. So for now, just bring this end here up to about this level here, and then do the same thing at each junction section. Just fill in with glass starting down here like this, and then building up like this. Obviously, you can't place glass where you have the tripwire, so you'll just have gaps in the glass wall where the tripwire is, and that's fine. But you do want to make sure that you get all the that you get glass in all the areas where you can have it. And again, just up to this level right now, like this block is a little too high for now. We'll be extending this upward later on. And then of course we do the same thing at this junction section right here. We're not going to fill in, we're not going to wall off this end though quite yet. We'll want to be doing something first with there. And you do have to use glass to do this, because if you put a solid block under tripwire, it will break the tripwire, so yeah, just keep that in mind. Now it is time to add the second tripwire hook to complete each of these trip lines. And we saved this part for last because once we can add those, it will be very difficult to stand on these stairs because they'll just keep pushing us down towards the center. If you're doing this in survival, you may want to put some temporary blocks in here so that you don't get pushed through the hole. So yeah. So now we come to this block here, and we go up 2 blocks like that, and then place a tripwire hook. And it should be right in line with this first hole here in the glass barricade where the tripwire goes through. Then we come along to here, do the same thing, and a tripwire hook there. And then we do the same thing here. And we do it once more right here, the last one. And we can test it. We stand here. And we get pushed off. Pretty sweet. And of course we do the same thing on the other side here, starting right here. Oops, not that one. And there we have it, 4 trip lines. Now it is time to finally wall off this end with glass, just like we did for the first end and all the junction sections. So we just fill this in, and if we stand right here on the layer that the tripwire hooks themselves are on, we will not set off the system, and we just fill it in. Now we need to put half slabs on certain exposed blocks. We'll start by putting half slabs all along here, because these blocks will be exposed after the farm is done, and we need to keep mobs from spawning on top of them. We'll also put half slabs over this exposed redstone here. And again, you don't have to put them over the repeaters, but in this case I'm going to, just to make it look consistent. And of course we do the same thing on the other side. Okay guys, so now if you would like to gas proof, or at least make your farm more gas resistant, now is the time to do it, and I'll show you what to do. First take some blocks like this, put them right here, and then place iron bars, or you could use nether brick fences in front of all the glass blocks that you have on this end here, like this. You don't have to do this. As I said, if you sanitize the nether well, you shouldn't have too many ghasts. But if you're not in a position where the ghast wants to shoot you, then this won't be necessary, because the ghasts will only shoot if they see a player. So if you're only in an enclosed building where ghasts can't see you, then they will not shoot you. We'll put one here like this, and one like that. Then we just fill in with iron bars like this. It is important that you do have the glass blocks there. Like you can't just put the iron bars in the place where the glass blocks are, because they don't occupy a full block, and mobs could end up getting stuck on the little ridge that they'd leave, and we don't want that. So it is important that you have that you do have the iron bars, the glass blocks there. Now, to complete this, you simply place some blocks, some full blocks, covering up these gaps here like this. And we can fill that in. And we fill, let's see, we can fill this in like this. And this will make the farm much more ghast resistant. And then, of course, we put half slabs on top of all of these covering up blocks that we just added. Like that. If you decide not to ghast-proof your farm, then you'd need to be putting obviously you wouldn't add the blocks down there, but you need to put half slabs on top of these blocks here so that mobs don't spawn on them. And you know, whether you do it or not, it's up to you. I haven't actually ever built this in survival, so I don't actually know how much of a nuisance ghasts will end up being if you do a realistically good job of sanitizing the area around. And of course, we don't want to forget these little nooks and crannies right here. You can just run a line of blocks along here like this to block off that redstone. Here you can just use half slabs for this redstone here, like that. And then just do that. And there we go. I don't think this block, yep, that block's not necessary. This can be replaced with a half slab if you're anal about with a full block if you're anal about the appearance and stuff. Oh yes, and I forgot one little bit of ghast proofing. We can just fill in with a full block right back here at the back end on the pretty end. And there we go. This farm is much more resilient against ghast fireballs. Alright guys, congratulations! You've just finished the lower centralizer for your wither skeleton farm. Now we have to make the upper centralizer. And oop, forgot a half slab there. Don't want to do that. Because if you sanitize the nether well, you would get mobs spawning here. Okay, so now you have finished the lower centralizer, which is probably the most expensive part of this entire farm. I mean, look at all those sticky pistons there. Yeah, this pretty much means you have to have an iron farm and a witch farm to be able to build this. Anyway, now we are ready to build the upper centralizer. So first, you come over to this top row of the sticky pistons, and careful not to step in the tripwire, and then you place a 2-high wall of solid blocks on top of the glass blocks that this top row of the lower centralizer sticky pistons are pushing. So just a 2-high wall all the way to the end. Now when you are done, you simply place, you can make the 2-high wall come one past the glass blocks. You simply come out 3 blocks like this, and then make a ring. Like this. Now that that's done, you need to come to each junction section and fill in like this. And we can just fill in down here. Oops. With glass so that the mobs are blocked from moving past the junction, moving into the junction section, because obviously the farm is kind of dead in the junction section. We just don't want mobs in there. And we'll just do that. Just fill it in. Mobs will not be able to get in. Now you need to get some vines and put vines all along the top edge of this ring like this. and then on the other side too. The tripwire will prevent the vines from growing too far. The vines on the inner side will be able to grow to a length of 2, and then the tripwire will stop them from growing any longer. And this is probably the part that's going to be the most pain in the backside to put in, because if any blazes get in here while you're trying to build it, they'll set the vines on fire. So that's going to be a little tricky, but it's not undoable. Now you do the same thing on the other side, which I'm going to do off camera. Now that you've finished with this, you are ready to build the next part of it. So you staircase up one, and you build you run a ring of your regular building blocks all along this edge, and then you make a ring with a 1-block gap in it, like this. Then you put vines all along the edge of this ring, and you can skip them at the junction section. Now you come to each junction section, and you just do that. You just place a block in the ring at each junction section, like that. And man, it is really annoying to fly with all these vines. They end up slowing me down. Now, you're going to need some redstone torches. And you put torches on the inside of this outer ring, like this. And then you take sticky pistons and you put them above the torches like this. This is probably going to be a nightmare to do in survival. So yeah. And at the junction section, you just place a solid block instead of a sticky piston. Well, I guess it won't be too bad to do if you're standing like here. You'll be able to click the top of the torch and not get pushed off. When you are done, it should look like this. Make sure to duplicate this entire structure on the other side, the entire little ring thing. Now, on the inside edge of this ring, you come up one and you make another line of your building blocks, like this. When you're done, it should look like this. And again, we put vines all along this edge here, except at the junction sections. And it should look like that. Now you, right on here, you build up 1 over 3, like this, so that this block is directly under this central beam of blocks here. Take these out for now. And you simply make a line of blocks all the way to the other side of the farm. Oops, went a little bit too far. Now we can simply make a line of blocks at the end here that connects this ring to this beam here. And we'll do basically the same thing at each junction section. And making sure we extend all the way to the beam. And it goes without saying that we duplicate everything we've just done on the other side of the farm, except for this central beam, which is right in the center, and therefore doesn't really need to get duplicated. So I'll go do that right now. When you are done, it should look like this. I'm on the ugly side of the farm, as you can see by all that ugly redstone. Although some people think redstone looks elegant. And it definitely does look impressive. But anyway, there you have it. This is what it should look like at this point in time. Now, you need to put torches on this central beam that you created. And we're going to put them on both sides of the beam, actually. When you are done, it'll look like this. Now we need to do some redstone. We'll start with this center beam. We first make sure that we are on the ugly end of the farm. And then we take a repeater and we place it facing into this beam with the torches on it. and we run redstone dust along the top of this beam here. And we put a repeater in each junction section, again making sure the repeater is facing away from the ugly end of the farm. And there we have it. Now we come out to the side of this farm, and we probably should have done this before placing the pistons. This beam here is the one that our torches are on. It's kind of hard to see it from this angle, but yeah, see, that's the one that has the torches in it. The torches that are powering this line of sticky pistons. So we come out and we place a repeater, again facing into it, and we place redstone along the beam, placing repeaters at the junction sections, again making sure they're facing away from the ugly end. And then we do the exact same thing on the other side of the farm. So we come over here, place this here, and yada yada yada. Okay, now we need to place some more pistons. And one tip before placing them on this beam, I should have shown you this a while ago, is you just place a temporary block here and then place a torch on it. This will turn off all of these redstone torches so that the pistons don't try to push you off as you're placing them. Especially useful in survival. So now you come down here and you place sticky pistons on these redstone torches so that they are facing you like this. They're at the same level as these sticky pistons here. And yeah, they're going to be pushing the mobs into the center of this little section here so that they can fall into the upper centralizer in a manner so that they do not take fall damage. And once you finish, it should look like this. Then we need to place some sticky pistons on top of these torches like this. And at the junction section, we'll just place a solid block instead of a sticky piston. When you are done, it should look like this. And of course, we're going to duplicate it right on the other side of this beam right here. I'll do that off camera. When you are finished, it should look like this. Now you come to the outer edge of your farm right here where we have these lines of redstone, and you stack up diagonally one like this and run a line of blocks like this. It should run all the way to the end of the farm, like that. And then you stack up again and run another line of blocks, like this, all along the outer edge of your farm. And notice that right now we are directly underneath the sticky pistons that push this first spawning pad. Now, we are going to place torches. We start one block in on this second line of blocks that we just made, and we place torches all along like this, except at the junction sections where we will just place a solid block. And when you get to the end, you just do that. It should look like this. Now, we are going to place sticky pistons right here, and this shouldn't be too hard to do in survival. You can do it by standing on these piston arms that are extended. It's a little bit awkward, but you know, no one ever said farming wither skeletons was easy. When you are finished, it should look like this, and at the end we'll just go ahead and put a couple blocks in like this, sort of closing it in, making it look nicer. Now we need to put one last row of sticky pistons up here like this. Oops, I want to do that. And let me tell you, this is going to be really tedious to do in survival mode. You'll probably end up having to do the redstone that'll be on top of that beam first to get these pistons to retract so that you can click on top of the torch more easily. And of course, here we'll just do a block. And when you are done, it should look like this. Oops, we forgot to put a block here covering this up. In fact, actually, we can. We'll just put the block like that. And so this should give you an idea of how this is going to work. The mobs are going to be pushed to the center of this once we put blocks on the front of these sticky pistons. The vines keep them from taking fall damage, and they'll get pushed to the center of this thing, and down they'll go. Now, all of these pistons that we just did, we need to duplicate on the other side. You probably guessed that. I'm going to do it off camera. Now I need to do some redstone. So make sure you're at the ugly end of your farm, and you come out to this beam of blocks that the torches are on. This beam that's right by this top row of sticky pistons that's in the upper centralizer here. Start with a repeater, just like we did with the others. And we run redstone and a repeater at every junction section, making sure that it's pointing away from the ugly end. There we go, and we do the exact same thing on the other side. Now it's time to wire together all the pistons in the upper centralizer. So we're going to knock out this temporary block that we placed, and we notice that the pistons of course extend. And then we run a line of blocks all along here, and we can just, this is going to power this repeater here. Redstone will be placed on here. We don't need to dip down or anything for this repeater. We could just place the block here and it'll still power the repeater. And we come up like that and go the other way. Like that. Now we need to put redstone along this whole beam that we just made here, so that all three of these arms are connected. Now we need to make a clock to run these pistons so they pulse back and forth. For various reasons, tripwire hooks will not work tripwire will not work for the upper centralizer. I forget why, but there was a very good reason about a year ago when I designed this. Alright, so you come 2 blocks out like this, and you place a sticky piston, and we'll put a block on top of the sticky piston like that. Come out, make a little ring like this, and then we put some repeaters in a ring like this. Now set each of these repeaters to 4 ticks, and we just place some redstone here, let's see, here and here. And now for this one we actually knock this block out here. We come down 1, put a sticky piston there, can get rid of that, and we put a block here that will be pushed by the sticky piston. Now you come out like this, place another sticky piston here, block on top of it, and come around like that. Put a repeater facing into this block here. Just put some redstone on top of these 3 blocks here. And then we take a lever. Ooh, get in there! There. And we put it like this. Now what this will do is this will simultaneously lift this piston up, allowing the clock to function, and sends a pulse into this clock to get it started. Of course, we still have to connect the clock to the arm here, which we haven't done yet. And to do that, we'll use 2 repeaters, and this repeater here will be on a 2-tick delay. So and we have to have this repeater on a 2-tick delay, because if you pulse a sticky piston for only 1 tick, the block that it's attached to will become unstuck, and we don't want that. So yeah, there you can have it. As you can see, it's working, and if you wired it correctly, the thing will be working. Don't let graphics glitches fool you and make you think that some of the pistons aren't firing. if you built this thing exactly as I showed you, they will be, even if it doesn't always look like it. Alright, so I've gone ahead and replaced these blocks with diamond blocks because that's what I've been using in this tutorial for blocks that are pushed by sticky pistons. So I just thought I'd do that to be consistent. Obviously, you're probably not going to be using diamond blocks if you do this in survival. Okay, so now we are ready to continue on. And before continuing, I'm actually going to just put a little switch here and force all the pistons to retract. That's just there temporarily. So now we come to our first row of sticky pistons here, the first level, and we're going to put solid blocks on them. Again, I'm going to use diamond blocks just to be consistent, but you probably want to use something a little bit cheaper, like, I don't know, stone brick. I'd say don't use wood because you're building in the Nether, but again, we already have incredibly flammable vines in this contraption, so, you know, it's already unacceptable for blazes to be firing, you know, their fireballs in here, so, yeah. Since we're going to be preventing that, I mean, you could use wood if you wanted to. It wouldn't be the end of the world. Alright, so on the first level, you do solid blocks, and then on this level here, we'll use glass blocks, and we'll just put a regular solid block in there. And that's what it should look like, and then we'll just do this for all of these sticky pistons, other than the ones on the first level. We'll just put glass blocks on them with a solid block in the junction section. Or section junction. Is it junction section or section junction? I've forgotten. Tomato, tomato, potato, potato. Yeah. When you finish, it should look like this. Glass blocks on all the sticky pistons we just placed, except for this layer of them, which has the solid blocks on them. In this case, a diamond, because we are incredibly wealthy. It's not like we're in creative mode or anything. Before we move on, make sure that you turn this lever off. We do want the pistons to be extended most of the time, and then when they're pulsed, they retract. The reason we do that is to minimize the risk of mobs taking fall damage. When the pistons are extended, the only way for mobs to fall far enough to take fall damage is if they fall through here, in which case there's enough room for them to be for their fall to be slowed down by vines. If these pistons were to be pulled back most of the time, they could take fall damage by falling down here onto here. The vines are supposed to help with that, but they don't. When you don't have a block of space below the vines, they don't really do a very good job of it. And also, like if the mob, say, is standing close to the edge of the block, so it fell kind of here, it might not be in range of the vines. So yeah, that's kind of the issue with that. So yeah, it is not unintentional that the pistons are extended most of the time, even though usually for this kind of thing the pistons would be retracted most of the time, and then would when they're pulsed they extend briefly. In the upper centralizer it is the opposite, and it is by design. So yeah. Oh, oops, we forgot to put blocks here and here. I'm really anal about that. So yeah. Before we move on, there are just a few little things we have to do to sort of clean up the construction here. First, we have a whole bunch of spawnable blocks between these two pistons. So you're going to need to fill them in. We'll start right here. And you can use solid blocks or half slabs. It doesn't matter. All that matters is that we're making it so there's only a 1 block high space and no mobs will be able to spawn, which is what we want. So remember, if you sanitize properly, any exposed spawnable block, mobs are going to spawn on in pretty quick order. Like in a period of 20 minutes, any randomly placed spawnable block will probably have a mob spawn on it. Once you've done that, I'm going to fill in this gap here. I forget whether there was a legitimate reason that I did that or whether it was just for aesthetic purposes. I'm thinking there may have been it may have caused some sort of weird glitch with magma cubes getting wedged in there, so you really do want to fill that in because you don't want like a bunch of small magma cubes accumulating in here. So we just fill in this gap in the pistons on both sides with the solid blocks. Once you've done that, take one last look, and if you've forgotten to put these ending solid blocks at the ends of like these lines of sticky pistons or the blocks that they push, go ahead and do that, and do it on the other side. Now you need to fill these openings at the end of the farm with glass. This is important because you do not want mobs inside the farm to be able to see out of it, blazes in particular. And yeah, you come down here where you have this beam blocks here that you need to fill this gap in with blocks. Then you come down here. You don't need to fill right in here with glass blocks, but you do want to fill this gap here with glass. Or I think what I did in the original farm is to simply do this. And I really can't remember whether there was any specific reason I had for doing this style of blockage instead of using glass. I don't think there was, so you're free to, where you have these beams, you're free to just fill that whole area in with glass and not have those beams, but there's a tiny chance that there could be some important little bug or something, or maybe not so important, but it's some sort of bug or something that occurs that the solid blocks prevent that glass doesn't. That kind of thing is quite common in Minecraft. But yeah, for the most part, it's probably safe just to do glass. So yeah, you do want to fill this in with glass. If blazes are able to see outside this trap, and let's say that you were climbing a ladder somewhere out here, and a blaze saw you, then it would try to shoot you, and it would fly. And if it's flying, it will not it will not fall down, and so this mob pusher thing will not work. The centralizer won't work on a blaze while it's flying, and also it'll shoot fireballs, which, well, they're flammable vines. And is tripwire flammable? I think it might be. Anyway, so it's best, because you're not going to be in here. If the blaze cannot see outside the farm, it will not try to shoot anything. So yeah. Once you've done that, you need to come down here and fill this gap in with glass again, so blazes can't see outside the farm. Oops. And then we'll go do the same thing on the other side. Yeah, so and again, if you want to gas-proof your farm, you just put iron bars in front of the glass blocks. You cannot substitute iron bars for the glass blocks, though. For example, you could not do, let's see, yeah, you couldn't do this, because then the iron bars are actually not as thick as a block, and so you'd have like a ledge down there that mobs could get stuck on. So you have to have the full glass blocks. If you don't have a whole bunch of iron, then I don't know why you're building a farm that requires this many pistons. But if you didn't want to use iron bars, you could use nether brick fence. That will also stop gassed fireballs. It's a little bit more of a pain in the butt to build, because you can't actually jump on top of it. It's a little too high for that. But yeah, I think that in this tutorial I am going to gas proof it, just so that you get an idea of how it looks. And I mean, in reality, it's very hard to completely sanitize the nether, so it's probably good to do some gas proofing just in case you know, you have some random block somewhere that's that you haven't covered, and a ghast happens to come along, and you know, one ghast spawns. You wouldn't want that one ghast to ruin your day. And again, like to gas proof the redstone here, you can just put some iron bars along the edge like that. I mean, any fireball that comes at the redstone will just hit the bars, and the blast won't go through them. And again, it's completely up to you. Another thing to keep in mind is that, let's say that you you've built a tunnel, which you have to which you use to approach the farm. If ghasts can't see you inside that tunnel, and you never wander around the open nether, you only come through here in like that tunnel or minecart tunnel that you built, then you don't really need to gas proof it, because the ghast won't be shooting if they don't see a player. So that's just something to keep in mind. Now we need to put half slabs on top of any exposed spawnable blocks that we have, and we make sure that the half slabs are the right side up variety. All this redstone, you can just click on top of the redstone and put a half slab like that. So any solid blocks, so in other words not glass blocks or glowstone. I don't think mobs can spawn on top of pistons, and I know they can't spawn on top of repeaters, so we just need to put half slabs on all of these. This redstone here, put half slabs on all of the redstone. And then for these blocks that get pushed by pistons, you can just put a half slab directly on top of the block like that. When the piston extends, it will get pushed up one level, and that will be at the correct point for it to be at. So we cover this up like that. All this here, we're going to go ahead and put a half slab just like that, so that the farm is gas proof. We could just fill that in with a solid block. Okay, I guess I have to sneak in here. I'm going to put half slabs on top of all the pistons, even though mobs can't spawn on top of pistons. Again, this will help with gas proofing, because I'm pretty sure that pistons don't have enough of a blast resistance to resist a gassed fireball. So if we just cover everything with half slabs, even the repeaters, which technically don't have to, you know, that's something you can do if you want to gas proof it. And again, completely up to you. Depends on this, and whether it's worth it to do that. It completely depends on the situation that you're in, and how you've set up your world around the mob farm. Alright guys, you have finished the upper centralizer. So take a step back and admire your work, preferably from the pretty end of the farm. Yeah, that actually looks like a face. Looks like a guy who's going, "Mwahaha, I'm gonna torture mobs and kill them. Mwahaha." Or it could look like someone who's puckering up for a kiss. Maybe it's a creepy, pervy guy. I don't know. But yeah, so you've finished the upper centralizer. Now all we have to build is the killing system. Mwahaha. Okay, guys, we are now ready to build the collection chamber. So the first thing you're going to want to do is come to the lower centralizer, the underside of it, and then right here at this corner here, we're going to build down 12 blocks. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Like that. Now make sure you are exactly 12 blocks below this little ring. The ring that's right where you're right about to be pushed off the edge. Right at these first, where these first pistons are going to push you. So stand right here on this edge here. Hit your F3 screen. We see that Y is 39. And when we jump here, we see that Y is 27. So we are exactly 12 blocks below here. You really need to double check it, because if you get it wrong, you're going to be doing a whole lot of rebuilding and your life is going to suck. And your girlfriend will probably dump you too. Once you have double and triple and quadruple and quintuple and sextuple, especially the sextuple part, because who doesn't like sex, tuple checked to make sure you're the correct distance below, you can go ahead and make a 40 by 4 platform underneath your wither skeleton farm. So we're going to count out 40 blocks in this way. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 36, 37, 38, 39, 40. And we come out the 4 this way. And we're just going to fill in the platform. And we are using glass blocks because we do not want any mobs to be able to spawn on this platform. Yeah, remember, zombie pigmen can spawn in any light level, so just lighting it up won't be enough. And there we go, guys. One 4x40 platform, and make sure that if you stack up in this corner here, that you ended up right at a corner of the ring of blocks around the opening where the mobs will drop through. We can just get rid of this for now, and then we will continue the construction. Now that you have ensured that this platform is directly where it is supposed to be, you can make the platform that the mobs will actually land on. So make a 2 by 38 platform that is set right in the middle of this 4 by 40 platform like this. We're going to use glowstone for this just because it looks good. The only important thing is that it is a type of block that mobs cannot spawn on, so you're basically limited to glass or glowstone or TNT, but seriously, blazes and TNT? No, I don't think so. So yeah, once you've finished it, it should look like this. And again, you might want to double check again and make sure that this platform is directly under the hole where the mobs will drop. We'll call it the asshole of the farm, because that's really kind of what it is, where it poops out the mobs. So yeah, just make sure that it's directly under it. Double, triple, sextuple check, because everything else that we build is we're going to be basing off the size of this mob platform that we just built, the glowstone platform. Really hope I'm being clear. But yeah, notice it is directly under the asshole of the farm. We'll call this thing the skid mark, okay? Because, you know, it's sort of a shadow of the asshole. Wow. I have the mind of a 12-year-old today. So yeah, so we have the asshole up there, and we have the skid mark directly below it. Okay, so now you want to build up 2 blocks from the skid mark, and then make a ring of glass at that level all the way around the skid mark. Just come all the way around. This is going to keep the mobs nice and trapped so that we can hit them in the balls and kill them. Now we can just extend this end of glass blocks up 1 level like this, and we take some regular blocks, build 2 out like this, and then make a line of blocks going along here. And then we do the same thing at this end. Oops, don't want to do that. And we duplicate it on the other side. Now, under each junction section, you need to place a couple glass blocks in here so that they split the ring around the skid mark into the appropriate junction sections. You need to do this for each junction section that you have. That is it. If you're not sure, just jump, stack up, and make sure that you have it right. And then, on each junction section, you need to put some blocks like this on the outer ring, solid blocks. And we'll do that here. And there you go. It should look like that. Now we need to put a line of sticky pistons in, making sure they're facing inward, like this, along this, the inside of this ring of iron that we made, or ring of whatever building block you're using. We do the same thing on the other side. When you're done, it should be like that, and now we put glass blocks in front of all of the sticky pistons, like this. And, yeah, we'll just do that for now. And when you're done, it should look like this. Do not forget to extend the barrier at the junction sections, like that. And there you go. Now, directly on top of the glass blocks that are going to be pushed by the sticky pistons, we simply place a line of iron blocks, or solid blocks, whatever building block you're using. And at the end, we simply build it up with glass. And do the same thing on the other side. And then when you're done, it should look like this. Now we simply place vines on all of these iron blocks here. except at the junction sections, which we will be filling in with glass blocks. Those junction sections are basically just going to be filled in with as a wall of glass all the way up to the asshole. And of course, we don't want to forget to do this. You know what? I'm actually just going to extend this all the way up to the asshole for now, since that's pretty much what's going to happen. It's just going to be a wall of glass separating the section junctions. We'll just extend this all the way up. Probably don't want to do that in survival, since it'll kind of end up being in the way as you're trying to build it, but since I'm in creative, I don't really care. I'll just do that. So now, heading over to the ugly end of our farm, we do the redstone on each of these arms of iron that's behind the pistons. So we start with the repeater on the first tick, on just one tick delay, the first setting, and we put redstone down, putting a repeater at every section junction. And we do the same thing on the other side. And again, make sure that all the repeaters are pointing away from the ugly end. Now we're actually going to just take some of our building blocks and make a line of them right on top of this redstone. Probably faster if we do it this way. And we'll make this line actually a 2-high wall. Oops. And we meant to make it go one further like this. And then we take some sticky pistons and we basically stick them to this wall here. So we have a 2-high wall of sticky pistons. Again, at the junction section, we'll just put some building blocks in there to fill the gap. When you're done, it should look like this, and of course, we will be doing exactly the same thing on the other side. You can actually wrap this around like this. And when you're done, it should be like this, and now we need to place solid blocks on the sticky pistons, and oh, we forgot to do that. Oh, while we're at it, we can just extend this glass end cap here up by 2 blocks. So yeah, now we're just going to place solid blocks on top of the sticky pistons here, or in front of the sticky pistons. And at the section junction, we'll just use our regular building blocks. All that really matters is that we fill in the gap there. Once you've finished that, you can simply make a 2-high wall of glass on top of here all the way around. Now you can make another line of your standard building blocks here. And yeah, see, this is where this is annoying and where it might be wise to hold off on making that entire section junction right off the bat, especially in survival. And yeah, so just do that. Now we're going to put vines right along here. Yeah. I hope you have Silk Touch. If you were following my tutorial earlier. And if you don't, sorry. Now, directly below the vines, you need to place a bunch of tripwire. So every block in this layer below the vines needs to have tripwire on it to prevent that from happening. Make sure that it's kind of hard to tell sometimes which block a block of tripwire is in. So you just make sure to get on this level with it, and really just make sure that you're clicking on the glass blocks directly below those iron blocks when placing the tripwire, and you should be fine. Once you've finished with that, make sure you now you can just seal up this this skid mark chute, I guess, for lack of a better term. Just fill it in with glass all along here. Make sure that no mobs can escape and that blazes cannot see outside the outside if you were to happen to be working on a ladder, say, over here. So yeah, definitely don't want fireballs in the tripwire and the vines. That would be bad. Now, of course, we do the redstone on top of these pistons here, and we only have to put redstone on this top row of blocks here, and through some sort of weird magic, it will power both rows of crushing pistons. I believe Panda calls that being butt powered or something. I don't understand all this complicated redstone. I just know that it works when the Minecraft pros do it. And again, it's just going to be exactly the same as pretty much every other arm of redstone that we've done. Alright guys, you have finished the killing chamber, or weakening chamber rather, because you're going to be the one killing them if you want experience. The weakening chamber for the Wither Skeleton Experience Farm. Don't worry if these vines are growing down. As soon as these glass floor pistons fire, this first row here, those vines that have grown down are going to be history, and all will be well in Wither Skeleton Farm world. Alright guys, it is now time to make the redstone circuitry that will tell these pistons when to fire. And I'm going to apologize in advance. I usually try to make my tutorials so that you can so that you understand the purpose of what you're building as you're building it. I think I was sort of starting to slip in that regard when I was doing this centralizer. I think I did a pretty good job of that on the spawning floors, but for this redstone, I just really can't think of any way of doing it except I mean, it's going to be hard for you to understand what the purpose of what you're doing is until the entire circuit's complete, because you kind of have to have the entire, there's really no way to understand the redstone except unless you can see it all at once. So please just bear with me. I'll go real slow, and we'll get this done. But yeah, so don't be afraid if you don't understand why we're doing stuff with this circuit. It's the most complicated thing I've ever built, okay? So let's get to this. First, we need to connect these two arms on each set of pistons together with a beam of solid blocks like this. And then we'll put redstone on it. Now that is an exception to the rant that I just gave you. You can understand perfectly what this is for. This is so that the two arms work together. Well, that was easy, wasn't it? Yeah, get your Staples Easy button ready. Okay, so now you come to this corner here on the top ring, and you build 3 blocks out, and then put a sticky piston right next to this block on the end of it, facing up, and you put a block on top of the sticky piston. Now you place a repeater facing away from this sticky piston, and you put some redstone like that, connecting it like so. Now you place a block here, and then you build down here, put a sticky piston here like this, the block on top of it, get rid of that block, and we'll put 2 blocks here, build up 1, 2 more like this. Then you place a block here and another sticky piston like this with a block on top of it, and then you build up a block like this and bring it out like that. Now you simply put redstone on all of these blocks right here, and then you have a repeater facing into this block here, and then this repeater needs to be on the 2-tick setting. So in other words, right click the repeater once. Then place a repeater on this block facing into this block here, and put this repeater on 4-tick delay. Now, on this side of this block here, you build out 15 blocks. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. 2 over this way, and then 7 back around. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Alright, now you're going to put repeaters all along this little horseshoe that you just created. Every block on the horseshoe except for the corners, because obviously we can't do that. There should be a total of 22 repeaters. make sure that they're all set to the 4-tick delay setting, except for the last repeater, which will only put on 2 ticks delay. Alright, did the rest of the repeater setting off camera, and of course we've got to put the redstone there. Yeah, this here is what determines how long the mobs are crushed for, and if you use this number of repeaters, 22 repeaters with the last one on only 2 ticks delay, and build the circuit exactly as I do, it will end up crushing them for the right amount of time. Now we need to go ahead and put a lever right here. This will be how we turn on and off the crushing cycle. Now we need to come out 2 more blocks like this, and then staircase down 3 blocks. So 1, 2, 3, like that. Now we bring it in 1 block like this, bring it 2 blocks this way like that, and then we bring it, let's see, 1 in like this. Sorry, I'm looking at a screenshot of my other world while I'm doing this, and so then we make a little 4x2 thing of blocks here like that, and connect to here like this. Now we put blocks here and here, put a torch in front of this block like this, and then we put a torch on the inside of this block like that. Now we take redstone, we run the redstone all the way down here, and we come here, and then we place a repeater like this. We leave the repeater on the default setting, and we simply place the redstone on top like this. And this little thing here is called an RS NOR latch. Alright, so now what we need to do is place a button right here and push it. What this RS NOR latch does is basically, if we were to say put a signal into this end of it here, then this side will be turned off, and it will remember which side is supposed to be on. So if we put another button here and we push it, you know, now it remembers. It received only a pulse here, but it remembers that this side is off and this side is on now. And yeah, default we want this side to be on because we want the glass floor. See how there's like a glass floor where the mobs will be standing on right now? I'll call it the gallows floor. Yeah, the gallows floor that's right over the skid mark. Yeah, there we go. It's almost like our Wither skeleton farm's an entire village. But anyway, so yeah, that's simply what this button is for, is to make sure, to allow us to reset this NOR latch so that it's in the default position should it become untoggled during the construction of this or something. Don't worry if you didn't understand anything I just said. It's not necessary to successfully build this Wither skeleton farm. So now you build a block out this way, place a sticky piston here pointing up, place a block on top of it, then build 2 blocks in this way, actually 3 blocks in this way, and then 2 blocks in like this. And then you simply, let's see, come in 2 blocks like that, and connect up to here. Now you place some redstone here, and then coming out of this block here, let me out. You place 2 repeaters pointing away from this piston block, and both these repeaters are on the 4-tick delay. And then you bring some redstone over here, and then you have a repeater coming in this block here, also on 4 ticks. Then you place some redstone there, and you have a repeater going into here, and this repeater is only on 1 tick here. Now build 3 blocks out this way from here, come out to the side like this, and then staircase up 2 more like that. Now you're going to come an additional 3 blocks out this way, and then loop around so that you connect back to this piston here. Now we come around to here, and we place a repeater facing away from this block here with the redstone, and we put this repeater on the 3rd tick delay, so it's 3 ticks, and we run redstone all the way up this staircase here till we get to here. Now we put 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 repeaters here like this, making sure that they're all on the 4 tick delay setting. And of course we've got to put a redstone there. And now we have a loop back, and this loop is going to be what restarts the cycle. Now you come around to this side of the top ring here. You place a block here and then a sticky piston like this, and make sure the sticky piston's facing up. And we put a repeater on this block, put it on the 2nd tick delay, and run some blocks around back here, and then just put some redstone on it like that. Holy crap, guys, so we are finished with the brains of the crushing chamber. Oh my goodness. I could have sworn that there was more, but you know, it's amazing. When you take something like this one step at a time, one block at a time, it's amazing how quickly you're done. So, now we just got to turn it on and make sure it works. So when we turn this on, it starts to cycle. And notice that we pulse the pistons quickly so the blocks remain in the middle, and at this point the mobs are being crushed. Then the glass floor opens and allows them to drop out at just the right time so that they don't suffocate, and then the pistons retract, allowing the mobs that are standing up here to have fallen briefly, and then the cycle starts all over again, crushes them for the correct amount of time, and yeah, when you see this thing get to the end, you'll see the glass floor opens quickly, just long enough for the mobs to drop out, and there we go. Alright, so now there's really just one more thing to do before we can say that our entire Wither skeleton farm is finished. That is, well, half slabs, but first we're going to turn this off because it's kind of annoying to listen to. So yeah, we got to put half slabs, I'm sure you guys know the drill, on top of every spawnable block. Got to put half slabs on top of all this redstone here. Just put them right on top of those piston blocks. You don't have to put the half slabs on top of the repeaters. And if you want to gas-proof your farm, you can just build a whole freaking little stone brick cage, around this entire thing to keep gas from blowing it up. Alright guys, so now that I've covered everything in half slabs that needs to be covered, only one thing left to do. Let's test this bad boy out. So I went ahead and already turned this on. Now we just got to turn the rest of the farm on. And of course you're free to, you know, connect all these together so that you only have to flip one switch to turn the farm on and off. Got all that on. Don't forget to turn this switch on. These last pistons, remember, are pulsing all the time, and that's to grind up magma cubes or something. I forget. Alright, so let's see, now we just got to turn the mobs on. Alrighty. You can see I already took it for a quick test spin off camera. Let's see if we got any mobs spawning in there. Ah, they're working. They're getting pushed down. Oh yeah, I hear mobs suffering. I hear mobs suffering. And these pigmen are a 2-hit KO because zombies have that annoying armor. Once you get a beacon, you'll probably want to set up a strength beacon so that you'll be able to do more damage with just your fists so you don't have to wear out swords. Or, you know, maybe you're going to use a looting sword for this, because you do get a lot of really good drops until you get all this gold, which could be useful, since gold can now be used to breed horses. If you're trying to get that 5-jump horse through breeding, you know, this could be useful for that. You get blaze rods, which can be used for fuel, extremely useful. Well, that's the end of this tutorial, guys. Good luck and happy wither skeleton farming. And please remember to rate, comment, and subscribe. It's especially important for this video because this farm took me absolutely forever to design. Had to go through several prototypes, especially for the thing that moves them to the center. I had to modify the centralizer that JL2579 used in his Witherripper because the mobs were taking fall damage, which was causing problems when I was trying to weaken them. And that thing took absolutely forever, like a week of playing 8 hours a day. So please remember to rate, comment, and subscribe. And also the fact that I had to do video editing to put this tutorial together. Although I do realize that I could have done it a lot sooner, so I guess I deserve a thumbs down just for procrastinating, because I'm really bad about that. Like, it was, what, months ago that I made that video showcasing this design, and then I'm finally getting this tutorial together. Yeah, I have issues with procrastination. Alright guys, peace out, and happy beacon farming! Oh, wither skeleton. Wither skull there. Yep. You will get those in this farm.